And we are recording. There you go.
Hi, everyone. Today is the Environmental Protection Committee. Alice, our chair, is out. I'm the co-chair, Wendy Chapman, and we're going to get right started with it. But and Tammy is, of course, our chair of all of CB1 and is our tech support for tonight. And she's going to be holding my hand through this meeting since I don't normally run the meetings. I just feel like with everything that's going on too, that happened, in the news and recently, just thank you for being here. This is democracy in action, and I'm really proud of all of us. So we're going to have a nice discussion tonight. We're going to listen to each other's voices. We're going to listen with open ears. We don't need to agree on everything to have a great meeting. And I think that's kind of amazing. So, that's where we are today. The other thing I wanted to do is that Paul Hovitz, the late Paul Hovitz, who was a Community Board 1 member who ran Youth and Ed for many years, he would start the meetings with introductions. And, obviously we tell who each other are, and we'd have like a little moment as to either why you're here or something about today or whatever you want to share, something short because we've got a lot of us in the room. But I just felt like, especially what's been happening on a bigger picture, tonight would be an appropriate time to do that. So I'm Wendy Chapman. I've been on the community board since 2015. I joined because I was upset about something that was happening at our school, and the community board helped me out and helped save PS 150 many, many years ago. And I just really can't believe it's been, 10 years since I've been on this committee. And one of the other things is when we started that, this committee didn't exist at that time. And the concept of the big U was, protecting all of Lower Manhattan was very much in all of our minds. And in my naive point of view, I thought it would have been done by now. So one of the things we're going to listen to later on today is one piece of that puzzle, another piece of the puzzle being put down to complete the big U. And I personally am supportive, even if the details I might have a different opinion. But anyway, that's more information than you wanted to know. So Sarah, you're next.
Hi, I'm Sarah Bissell. I've lived in downtown New York since, I don't know, 92, 90 somewhere. And I joined the board. I don't know when. No.
It's okay. We're going to do it like speed dating.
Good idea. So anyway, it's because I have a child who grew up here. I joined the community board.
Excellent, excellent.
Keep going straight down the table. We'll go to the table and then we'll do
Yeah,
left
Nancy,
and
you're
right.
next.
I'm Nancy Vigiano. I'm a public member of this committee, not of the board in general. I've always been interested in politics and what goes on. I used to have a couple of guys, my husband, my son, who handled all that, and I had a not-for-profit job, but now that I'm retired, I'm trying to become more involved in the community.
Claudia Flamina, I'm the Senior Director of Capital Projects at the Battery Park City Authority, and I'm here to talk about our Northwest Plains project today.
Hi, I'm Becky Beer. I'm the Assistant Director of Public Affairs Communications, also here to talk about resilience.
Kimberly Saul, Vice President for Planning and Design at Battery Park City Authority, to talk about resiliency.
Hi, my name is Rachel Wilkins. I am the project lead at Garrett English Group for the Battery Park Resiliency Project. I'm also here to talk about resiliency.
Hi, I'm Christine Dimick. I'm a new board member. And been part of this community in Seaport, Clyde, and now Battery Park City for really long, for 11 years, almost 12. And I decided to make the step. This community means a lot to me, and I believe, and I love that until this I do. I believe, all of us as a community as well makes things happen. So whether we agree or disagree, it's good to have the discussion. We need to have those.
That's right.
Vince Cordone, Battery Park City Authority. So to discuss Northwest Battery Park City resiliency, some design.
I'm Marla Ershad, and I'm the board. I think I joined mostly because as a young person, most people in my community or at my high school don't know a lot about what's going on in the community. So by keeping myself informed, I'm able to help different folks.
I'm Richard Foreman, a member of the board. I joined because I'm an old person. Probably been in Lower Manhattan since when your grandparents were born. And I deeply believe in the community board and its importance to the community. And its relationship and its ability to communicate out and get people's and connect people to the issues of the day that are really important to them, the issues that are on the ground that affect people every day.
I'm Jeff Galloway. I'm also on the community board. I chair the Battery Park City Committee as well as serving on this committee. I've lived in Battery Park City since 1982, which means I'm also an old person. I've been on and off the community board over the years. I rejoined in 2020, specifically because I was interested in resiliency for Lower Manhattan.
Tammy?
I'm Tammy Meltzer. I'm Chair of Community Board 1. This is my last year as chair. I've been chair a while. So I have been on the community board since 2016. I was one of the people in 2009 in the back of the overcrowding task force with a sign in the elected's office, build schools now, build schools now. So I went from one of those loud protesters screaming in front of City Hall to here. It's been a long road. It's been an awesome road. I think that the city functions best when it listens to its community. Community-based planning is oftentimes far more robust and brings better solutions to items versus top down. And that's part of why I joined the community board, because amplifying the voices on the board and understanding, helping people in the community understand how government works are two completely separate things that can come together. And so if everybody plays in the pool and we all learn to figure out the best way we can move forward and not be obstructive on everything, then I think it's an awesome thing. And with that, I leave to Jill.
Hi, Jill Goodtime. I am many things, but for the purpose of this meeting, I've lived in Battery Park City since 1989. I was there on September 11th. My husband died from 9/11 related cancer. My neighbors are sick. Our children have ailments. I am here today for a particular reason, and that is environmental issues related to the construction of Wisconsin.
Vera.
Okay, hi everyone, I'm Vera, and I'm a lawyer, and I've lived in the South Street Seaport, lived there since about 1990. Thank you, Wendy, for your refreshing start of the meeting, and I love being on the board because despite all the issues that we have and all the disagreements we have, we truly respect one another and understand we each are full of care.
Next.
Hi, everyone. Privately, Steve, the last one, in private practice, we're talking about the responsibility.
Not sure if it's my connection, but I couldn't hear what anything just said, the person just said.
Actually, she's very soft
Yeah, Lee,
spoken.
why don't you stand up and talk into the owl?
Yeah.
Hi, hello. My name is Lee Elfman. I work with State, and I'm here to talk about the Northwest Battery Park City Resiliency.
Better?
Thank you.
Justin?
Yes,
Bill?
much better. Thank you.
Loud and clear.
Bill Martin, construction engineer. Cruz, BPCIT. Everybody, Michael Ryan, I'm the community construction liaison for the
Hi, I'm Claire Wise. I'm founded from WX Studio, Lower Community Board 1 resident. And our office is also Community Board 1. Many of you are familiar with other projects that we've done downtown, bridges to sea glass, to, you know, as
Well known and loved.
Yes. And I'm here to present the battery field use.
Yes.
Sean Scott, CB1 member, community member. And yeah, I started learning more about local politics about 2 years ago. I've lived here since I've lived in New York since 2016, here since 2022. And yeah, I just got excited by the prospect of improving the city and not just complaining about it.
Good job.
All right,
Oh, and just, who's online?
Justine, and Erica, if she'd like to go.
I was to say, you want to say hi to Justine?
Hey, everybody. Sorry that I'm not there in person. I'm in the car, but we'll be there shortly when I can get settled in. Anyhow, Justine Kucha, longtime member of Community Board One, and I joined to make a difference. I felt like it was really important to have and be a part of. If I had something to say, I wanted to be a part of what was being happening. So thank you.
Erica, if you'd like to go next. But you don't have to.
Hi everyone, I'm here. How about you? Are you able to hear me?
You're okay. Just talk louder, Erica.
Okay, sorry, I'm in transit. My name is Erica Sullivan. I'm here from Assemblymember Deborah Glick's office. Assemblymember Glick is the chair of the Environmental Conservation Committee in the New York State Assembly. And I joined her team because I too am passionate about environmental and animal protection. Happy to be here with you all.
That's great. Thank you. No one else online, right?
Nope.
Okay, well,
Wendy,
Yeah.
I can move from the table if the board members want to sit at the table, I can move to the side,
I-
Bill and Vera, is that? Sure.
I was gonna say, I think we're okay, because I really do want to make sure everyone can hear you on the owls when you make your presentations, or, if you're coming up to the front, that's fine too. But it is true, normally we have board members sitting at the table first. But, maybe we want to stay a little way.
You just want to stay a little bit back from me,
Yeah,
hence the mask.
Tammy had COVID last week, but we don't know, what the situation is. So
No,
I was saying you're,
I'm following the guidelines, I'm
Exactly.
fever free, I'm out with a mask.
you're
But,
fantastic.
Yeah, there we go.
So yeah, thank you, everybody. I think the first thing on the agenda is, just the Lead Paint Right to Know Act. And, this committee wrote a resolution in support of that. And I just wanted to give everyone a short, update that it did pass the assembly. But sadly, Friday, which anyone on the board got a blast from Zach, which was really helpful, asking to call Cavanaugh's office and all of our other electeds to try and support that. But my understanding is that it didn't get moved onto the, forward to even vote for it. So it didn't even hit the floor. It didn't come up. So we
Is
have
that
our
in the Senate or
in the Senate. So the Assembly passed it. The Senate didn't, what's the proper term for that? But they didn't put it forward, for a vote. So we have our work cut up for us next year. So that the same thing happened last year. So I would just, I was hoping we were going to have better news today, but I just wanted to give everyone an update on that front. And, if you want to help on that front, we can, talk more about that, because I personally want to push this bill forward.
Wendy, did they get to
The board does too.
for why it didn't pass?
I was hoping somebody from Kavanaugh's office would be here today to, that's one of the things I very much would like to know. So, and it's Kavanaugh's bill and, but it didn't get moved forward. I don't know the mechanics behind it. I'm not sure, I don't know why. But when we have a full board meeting, that's one of the questions I'm personally going to ask while we're there.
It's his bill.
Yes, he's the sponsor of it, but it didn't get moved forward. So, needless to say, I was disappointed, but, we're gonna work on that next year. Anything else on that front, Tammy?
Nope.
Okay, thank you, everyone. So let's just get right into it. So the next one is we're looking at the environmental impact statement for the Northwest Battery Park Resiliency. So,
I'm gonna come
yes.
up to the front. I think it's probably easier. I can project, so. I will take over technology.
Thank you, thank you.
And if it doesn't work,
I hit the center button, correct?
yeah,
As I say, I'm gonna take over technology.
there's also,
The computer kind of.
there's a red light that you can.
Oh, great. So thanks everybody for joining us tonight and for having us. Again, I'm Claudia Filomena. I'm the Senior Director of Capital Projects at the Battery Park City Authority. We wanted to come to EPC just to give an update on our environmental impact statement. Our environmental impact statement was published on May 29th of this year. just a big milestone for the project. You might have received before the meeting. I just want to explain this
Yeah.
document here. So I believe that was circulated before the meeting. Board members got this response to comments received on the DEIS. The highlighted sections here are the part of the board's resolution that they issued in September. So the yellow is basically the board's questions, the green are our responses. All of those are included in the response to comments, including comments we received from any other member of the public. They're in chapter 10 of the EIS, which is on our website, as are all the chapters. It's a very light read, only 1,000 pages or so, but it is all available on our website, as is the presentation.
You said chapter 10?
I think it's chapter 10, yeah. It's actually labeled response to comments received on the EIS.
So we shared this with everybody on the committee. It'll go into our public drive as well. And the biggest thing to note on here is that anything that says Zach Bomber that's highlighted in yellow is as a response to the items that we put in the resolution that were passed as the full board. So it's got a lot of responses. I'm sorry it didn't come to us today. We would have sent it in advance if we had it in advance. But we were delighted to have it today. It's great evening reading, especially if you're
Very light read.
Yeah.
It is not advancing. Next slide, please. Thought I was going to handle the tech, but I didn't do it.
It's okay.
This is just an agenda of what we're going to go through today. Go to the next slide. So just to talk about how we got here. So this is this project. We're a state authority, so it's subject to the State Environmental Quality Review Act. It's also, because we're doing the project within New York City, it's also needs to be responsive to SEQR, the City Environmental Quality Review Act, not any sort of acronyms. I will try to make sure I spell everything out. So we began our environmental review process in October of 2022 when we issued our environmental assessment. We had our draft scope of work issued for our ES in October 2022 and had a public hearing in November of 2022 at Stuyvesant High School. Many of you attended that public hearing. We issued our draft EIS last summer in August. We had a public hearing in September, and the comment period was open through October 7th, during which we received many comments. We have over 100 pages of response to comments in that chapter that I just mentioned before. As I mentioned, we published our environmental impact statement on the 19th of May, and our board approved the statement of findings on the 29th. I misspoke earlier. Next slide, please. So just to give an overview for those of you who are not familiar with the project. So the Northwest Resiliency Project is about 1.25 miles of water, it works, of an integrated flood protection system. Okay, great, thank you. That ties into our South Battery Park City Resiliency Project here at First Place, roughly follows the privacy walls along the buildings, comes around the North Cove Marina at the back end, closest to the World Financial Center, curves around 300 BC and goes basically along the water side, along Rockefeller Park, comes toward up Esplanade, which we are expanding as part of this project, crosses Route 9A, goes on the east side of 9A, and up to a high point here at Northmore and Tribeca. We have to go into Tribeca as part of this project because we have to tie in to the High Point design flood elevation, which we cannot do within Battery Park City. Just the project objectives. You've seen us present the project before, and you're probably familiar with these, but the goal is to provide a reliable coastal flood barrier system. Yes?
Aren't you not changing that particular part, or has that changed?
We are not. This is just illustrative.
Oh.
Preserve and enhance open spaces and the cultural resources within the neighborhood. To the greatest extent possible, enhance and preserve the character, accessibility, and improve accessibility in the neighborhood and the design of the neighborhood, and avoid or minimize disruption to the greatest extent possible of the below and above ground infrastructure. So just what we're protecting areas within Battery Park City, but also outside. This is the 2050 100-year floodplain, which as you can see extends well outside of Battery Park City. This is just sort of resiliency by the numbers: 105 buildings, 25,000 residents, $15.9 billion in property value, and significant social and transit infrastructure in Lower Manhattan. The purpose and need of the project, I just went over this before, but as part of the environmental review process, we have to outline the project's purpose and need. Those are the 4 points I went through before. This is actually in the beginning of the EIS. You'll see this as a standalone chapter as well. So when we look at the analysis that was required, on the left, you'll see these areas that operational means that when the project is fully built and it's up and running, we were able to screen these out. There were no impacts in these categories. On the left, in the middle, this is post-construction operational, the detailed analysis that we're required to do. You'll see we have one impact here, one operational significant impact, and that is along Route 9A, because we're putting swing gates within Route 9A and have to expand the median, within 9A. We are creating some traffic impacts that can be adjusted through signal timing changes. During construction, we have temporary significant adverse impacts for open space. Obviously, we have to work along the waterfront in Battery Park City that will require temporary closures while we do that work. Transportation, obviously, to traffic and pedestrians, cyclists in the neighborhood and outside. There'll be noise emissions, and there'll also be impacts to neighborhood character because we are doing a significant construction project. But these are all temporary. Again, as I mentioned, this just goes into more areas we analyze for land use, consistent with Waterfront Revitalization Program, which is the city's program, open space. It doesn't reduce the size of any BPC open spaces or recreational facilities because we're basically restoring the ones, or we're not impacting them at all in the case of Rockefeller Park. We did site investigation, soil testing, and we have disposal recommendations for hazardous materials that were also signed off on by the City Department of Environmental Protection. We looked at new water and sewer infrastructure, including the pump station that we're building as part of this project. We looked at any impacts the flood barrier system had on streets and sidewalks. We looked at greenhouse gas emissions and consistency with the city's GHG guidelines. And we looked at the potential for a combination of factors that would impact the character of the neighborhood. We looked at in some great level of detail about cultural resources or visual and urban design resources, especially given views to the Hudson River and the number of historical structures, including the bulkhead that are in the area. Basically, we had to do a phase 1A archaeological study, which basically means that you sort of look and identify all of the historical assets in the area, and you identify potential impacts. There's a limited area of the below-grade Hudson River bulkhead, which runs along Route 9A, that'll be modified for the gate structure. This is under review with SHPO and LPC. And we also, as I said, looked at view corridors, especially those from the upland areas to the Hudson River and also from the Hudson River to the upland neighborhoods. Open space, again, post-construction, there are no significant adverse impacts because there's no permanent reduction in open space and there's no indirect impacts like shadows. There are no significant adverse impacts to natural resources based on tree removal and replacement. We got a lot of questions during both our public meetings, but also in our draft hearing about the number of trees that will be impacted as part of the project. 435 trees are going to be removed as part of the project, 6 of which are in New York City Parks jurisdiction, which means they're in the city right of way. 42 would have been conditional removals regardless of whether or not we were doing the project. And 17 have currently been identified as candidates for transplant within the study area. We are planting 450 trees within the project area, and 8 of those would be in the city right of way. We're also looking throughout Battery Park City to plant additional trees where feasible and where it makes sense, and also just increasing the biodiversity of the neighborhood. We also are, given the location of Battery Park City, obviously we need to look at the in-water structures, which are the piles that we'll be putting in place as part of the project, as well as any overwater structures. We're doing some decking replacement, so we had to look at the impact to the water. We had to look at impacts to river water quality, to biota or fish and other species in the water. We had to do a number of analyses as part of our joint permit application with the Army Corps and DC about those in-water impacts. And we also had to mitigate those in-water impacts by purchasing wetland mitigation credits from the city's Sawmill Creek Wetland Mitigation Bank. So neighborhood character, as I said, there's no impacts in the built condition. We're not basically impacting the urban design or visual resources through the integration of floodwall into the existing landscape and enhancing the landscape design. We're not, once the project is fully operational, the neighborhood will basically function as it did before the construction started. And as I said, the only operational impact is transportation, which will obviously have impacts to pedestrians who go through the neighborhood, also to people driving, and we're working with City DOT to work through those impacts and discuss what they are. So again, this is just sort of analyzing what we looked at for construction. Again, these are the areas where we have impacts: open space, transportation, neighborhood character, and noise. For air quality, there were no significant adverse impacts. However, we are going to be publishing monthly community air monitoring reports, and we'll get air monitoring alerts in real time as we do work on site and can report those out. That has been a question I think we've gotten from a lot of people as we're talking about this. But that is something that's possible. We're doing that on our South project too. If we get air quality exceedances, we do get them in real time. But
I don't mean to interrupt, but who determined this? This is your.
these are the thresholds we have to look at for secret and secret.
So the only comment I will make is if you live at 50 Battery, your idea of what a threshold is exceedingly different than if you live across the street.
Mhm.
And we've heard that from the neighbors time and time again, that not necessarily the same experience. What's the concern about the Northwest project is almost every part of the project will be closer to the experience that 50 Battery has had, which will be significantly different than what you have for the South Battery Park City. So
No, we're gonna go into it a bit more and into detail of how we're trying to mitigate this, because I think, are you talking about noise or air quality, Tammy, or both?
yes,
Both.
Yeah.
I like how you just answered yes. I assumed it was both. Okay, so for open space, so as I said, we're gonna have temporary significant adverse impacts because even though we'll be phasing the work, there'll be areas that will be closed. We are working on phasing the reopening of those areas as they become available and that they're safe to reopen. We have proactively looked at potential mitigation. We're undertaking a master planning effort with Arab Enscape to identify new potential open space areas, also a whole new wayfinding program that helps identify open areas, closed areas, also just helps people get around the neighborhood more generally. We're also looking, and I think that we are coming to the community board next month to talk about this at the BPC committee in more detail, but this is something that we're looking at. Yes.
we did get an email after the last committee meeting, the BBC committee meeting, and some of the outreach from BPCA, from PTA, from 89 and 289, that they were unaware, they had not seen any presentations, and they were a little bit concerned that anything would be implemented before they had opportunities, because again, at the end of the school year, you know, they're out. And for Stuyvesant, as probably, you know, our high school student can tell, they're on Regents Week, so their last days of classes, if not already done, are this week. So trying to get a PTA meeting that you can present at to explain what's happening or get information out to those 3 schools doesn't seem potentially possible until maybe July or August when they're not here.
I can take that. So
Thank
Rebecca Thomas from the PS89 PTA emailed us last weekend, I think not long after, before she emailed Zach. And I said, thank you so much, because we have since April been trying to get in touch with the PTA. And emails that went unanswered, but it's fine. The bottom line up front for everyone is Sarah Fisher-Curtin, who's on sustainability, and I did both Rebecca last week. The catch 9 up.
It doesn't help.
Sure that he should be sending the rest of the PTA and the principal, but the school had been reached to, and we'll continue to make sure that we have conversations with them. And this will not be, no more will happen before the schools get back in September.
So it's good to hear.
Yeah.
But as we know from Community Board 1, leadership is one thing.
Right.
Hitting the diaspora of everybody in the community is the most important part. And that goes for IS 89 and Stuyvesant as well, because those students come from all over the community and they're not here necessarily hearing everything, Dave.
No, Stuyvesant we're coordinating as well with, so we'll be in touch with them repeatedly. It's not a one and done, but heard and answered, and we'll be continuing to talk with them. But thank you for letting us know.
Thanks, Dan.
Manhattan Youth,
Manhattan Youth, I believe so, I confirm as well. I believe
So maybe we could continue the presentation,
Yeah.
come back unless it's, Christine, is there
Wait,
something?
I was gonna ask you, when are we going to have a Q&A? after?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think it's probably best to
Yeah.
keep going.
Thank you.
And as part of our additional mitigation, We're also going to be making a substantial contribution to HRBT's new 10,000 square foot estuarium that they're building, because we will be, as I said, expanding our North Esplanade into the sanctuary of Hudson River Park. So we will be mitigating that impact by contributing to the estuary. Yeah. So noise, we had to look at a number of receptors. Tammy, as you pointed out, because we're working very close to buildings, there will be noise impacts to buildings. Again, they'll vary by location and obviously depending on the type of work that's going on. We are looking at additional measures, which I'll get into like a little bit more detail on, of how we mitigate that noise or muffle that noise. And basically our analysis looked at the reasonable worst case peak hourly noise, which is the conservative way that you analyze like the worst possible noise for the work that's going to be going on. Looking at all the equipment that's being used in the type of work. Noise mitigation. So here are some of the things that we're looking at. Some of them seem very obvious, but sometimes they're not so obvious, which is limit operations to noise emission standards, which again is fairly straightforward, but again, something we want to make sure we do. Limit weekend or after hour work, meaning deliveries, limiting to deliveries and, weather catch up, make sure, it would have to require permits anyway. We wouldn't have work without permits happening, but really limiting that weekend or after hour work unless it's completely necessary. Construction materials, obviously not slammed around early in the morning and transported in a manner that is as quiet as possible. Replacing diesel with electrically powered equipment. Our team has worked really hard to do this where it's possible. There's not a ton, there's not equipment available for every single type of construction vehicle, but it is available for many. We'll be swapping those out. And also as it catches up, hopefully we can have more on site that is electric. We're going to be using enclosures to limit noise dispersion. We're minimizing alarm backup noise, which is the most annoying noise in New York City, but making sure that that's not happening all the time, making sure our vehicles are properly maintained. Our construction fence noise attenuation is going to be a minimum of 8 feet. For those of you who live in Battery Park City, you may have seen we were doing some test pile work. We had fences as high as 14 feet. We're going to be working with buildings on the fence height and what's appropriate based on the uses, their ground floor uses or their second floor uses. Also looking at draping sound blankets from the buildings, again, in consultation with the buildings. And also potentially using construction noise curtains, which are these 20-foot high mobile systems. But we're really trying to do our best to come up with all the solutions and be creative about how we mitigate the noise to the greatest extent as possible. So again, neighborhood character, obviously during construction, there's going to be impacts because we're going to have closures. We're going to have open spaces that are not going to be available. The exception to that is Rockefeller Park, which will be open during construction, but a lot of the other areas will not be. Again, these will be phased, localized, confined largely to the areas, along the proposed project. We, again, are working on making sure that our signage, Wendy, I know that that's always something you've shown, but our signage is clear. And it's also, we're notifying people in advance as soon as we know, as much as we know, as frequently as we can, because it's going to be disruptive and we're not saying that it's not going to be, but we want to make sure this is as painless as it possibly can be.
It's not, there you go.
Okay. So again, there are some traffic and mitigation impacts that, traffic impacts that are hard to mitigate. Like some of them are pedestrian, sort of rerouting and things like that that you can't avoid because there's limited sidewalk area and we have to take up a bunch of the space. Obviously there is some temporary construction open space impacts while we're doing work on site. Again, I mentioned how we're going to mitigate that and also noise, and how we're working to mitigate that. Again, I would just stress, this is all, in terms of the noise mitigation, this is all in consultation with buildings. We've been doing regular meetings with all of the buildings. And as we have more details about construction staging and phasing, we're going back and continuing those conversations, just so that we can bring people the information they need as we have it.
Point it this way.
Yeah, can you fix that? Fix it? What's wrong with that?
It's okay. It's okay. There you go.
Thank you. Okay, so this is a lot, but these are all the intersections we have to study from a traffic perspective. As I said, bless you. So 9A, it's basically going to be, and for the most part, all along 9A at Northmore, at Harrison, at Fleet, and at BC Street, it's going to be mitigated through signal timing changes. For pedestrian mitigation, it's probably going to require the removal of some decorative street elements and some street furniture. In some areas, there'll be, as I said, unmitigated significant impacts, during construction peak. There'll be rerouting of pedestrians. We are still in consultation with city DOT. None of this has been worked out yet. We just started having conversations with city and state DOT on how we develop this maintenance and protection of traffic plan. As you can imagine, it'll be a lengthy conversation, but that has started to how we can do our best to make it easier, especially for pedestrians, because it's going to be very disorienting for lots of people. For everyone, say. So as part of the EIS process, we're required to look at alternatives, and we can consider basically a large range of reasonable alternatives. And the goal is to pick the one that is basically the least impactful. So just as a refresher, what we looked at the inboard alignment, which is essentially what our alignment is. But early on, for those of you who went to our public meetings, we looked at an outboard alignment, which would have been on the waterfront side. So those are both described in our EIS, as well as some other alternatives, the no action alternative, which means we don't do the project at all. The design alternatives, the most significant that you've probably heard about is the 9A crossing, the Harrison Street Gate crossing, some of the design options at Northmore, and locations for the pump station. And then we also have to look at a no unmitigated significant adverse impact of the reasonable worst case scenario is the final. So again, just unavoidable impacts. This is during the construction phase. And just to give you some key comments you'll see in this document that we circulated, we got a lot of impacts, comments on impacts on trees and landscapes and views. We got a lot of significant comments, water quality impacts in the Hudson River estuary, specifically related to the pump station, floodgate design and operation, who operates, who maintains, and construction impacts, obviously, phasing and activities, noise, air quality, closure of open space, operation of community facilities and businesses during construction, and obviously street and sidewalk closures. I think that's my last slide. So thank you for letting me talk at you for a little bit. I'm happy to take questions, but that was a lot. So need a minute, I understand.
There are a lot of questions in the room. We'll get to all of them. Why don't we just go around the room? So Sarah, you want to start?
Yeah,
Just make sure you're speaking up.
okay. There was a slide that had a number of addresses listed.
Yes.
And it was interesting that, there we are. It doesn't say anything about Gateway, which is interesting because Gateway is going to be affected on two sides, on the marina and on the river. And I think it's going to be, since I live there, and I've heard the noise from what's already happening there and what has happened there with the sluice gate repair. I think you want to look at that particular corner for noise as well, and air quality, et cetera, because ours is going to go on for a very, very long time.
Yeah, we did. I think this is a select. Is Bob White? Are you in the line to make there up?
I don't, unless Bob's a 631 number, do you know?
Yeah, you seem to be caring a lot about Rector Place. But Gateway is,
We looked throughout the project area. This is just.
Do we know if Bob is a 631 phone number?
Don't know that he is. But, okay, well, anyway, sorry, but I thought that Bob White, who did, for Make Care Of, we did our, Marjorie might have been on the call. But we did look at all the addresses. If you go into the noise chapter, you'll see all the addresses we did look at. This is just, this
we'll
table,
go back over
yeah,
it.
this is just a representative sample, but we did look at it and we did look at.
now. Bob just popped in, so I just promoted him.
Oh, hi, Bob. We have a question for you.
He can unmute himself.
Bob,
Should be able to, make that other person who I don't know.
Okay, well, maybe just keep talking.
Oh, you have seen that audio, Bob.
I think Bob was, it's.
Bob, you sound worse than me.
I was saying,
Yeah, cannot hear him at all.
maybe you can text somebody or get, I was gonna say, type it in or text it.
Or you can
to
dial in by phone.
Oh, yeah, you can just dial in.
Okay, I mean, maybe, I know maybe we'll get to look for Bob to get his audio back on. We'll think about it.
Yeah, we can go back to that. Bob, when you're on board, just break in, okay? That'd be good. And Jill, how about you, or why don't you ask your question and then we'll come back to Sarah's question.
Okay, sure. I'm gonna go back to Gateway because that's gonna be 3 years of constant construction on one side.
Thank you, Bob.
And then 2 years on the other. As I think I mentioned in my introduction, there's a lot of 9/11 survivors. And the air mitigation is absolutely not enough. There needs to be an outside air monitor. It needs to be monitored 24/7. From what we heard in the Wagner Park construction, the amount of dust and dirt, because it's very windy, as you know.
Yes.
And it's very windy on Gateway, right there on the water, was immense. Our people cannot be breathing this in. I understand from talking with someone at Gateway that there hasn't been, you said you've spoken and coordinated with all the different buildings.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about your coordination from Gateway? Because I understand.
We have met with the management company. We met with the association. I believe it was.
No, I meant with management.
Yeah, we met with management several times.
Okay, and they're amenable to you, any
We're-
blankets on?
We're continuing to have conversations with them. As we mentioned, I think when we met with Gateway a couple weeks ago, we are continuing to have those conversations and talk more about staging and phasing and some of the issues that were brought up. And then I think we're coming back to you guys. I think it has not been scheduled yet, but the air monitors would be outside the building. So,
No, the monitors need to be in the middle of the construction.
you know,
site.
that's, they would, yeah, and they would be,
And
right.
there needs to be a real-time outside monitor, and then there needs to be a plan in the system to alert people living there on what they should do, close their windows, I don't know. But that should be part of your plan, what they should do. Generators cannot be diesel. If you need to run electric lines so that all the generators are electric, so they're not giving off diesel fumes, that should be an attempt or some. Can you explain the vibrating piles? Like you said that how many piles and they go in and it's gonna be what, years of piles going into the ground
I
or
would,
a year? Can you use, that you're using a vibrating
yes.
mechanism? Will we be vibrating? Can you explain that?
I will ask Bill, who's with Turner Construction, to explain that, because I'm not a contractor, so I would let him explain the.
Hi. So there's kind of two piles we're using in the job. There's a 14-inch pile, 14-inch pile. We call it a mini pile.
Yeah.
It has a smaller rig. And then there's where the gateway overcomes the platform, we have through his platform. There's 36-inch piles. You might have heard the word caisson before.
Yes.
There's really two ways to do
That
this.
that goes boom, boom.
Boom, 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 boom. We're not doing that.
Okay.
We're doing a better method. We're gonna drill them. It's quieter.
Is that like jackhammer drilling?
No, it's a, you know, if you think about an auger, like, you know, just drilling a hole in your yard, it's a big auger that goes down and drills. And so it's much quieter than the banging.
High pitched noise.
And
It
then,
still makes noise. It still makes a lot of noise.
But it's not jackhammer.
It's not jackhammer.
but it's a lot, and vibrations. We talked about vibrations.
Sure, there'll be a vibration machine against each building. And there'll be an alert threshold and a stop threshold. So that if you hit that stop threshold, work stops. And they figure out why it hit that and put a remediation plan in place.
Okay, can we take a step back then and talk about what's going to be vibrating and why we need to have that? And what those vibrations are gonna be like. Will they be movement? Will they be movement and sound? This is part of installing the piles. And the fact that we need to have these monitors on the building causes some concern. So
Well, I think we put them on the building as a precaution to make sure we're not in those exceedance levels. Like, I think it's also just to be as a safety measure,
So
to have vibration monitors on all the buildings.
what are we going to be experiencing as our windows are right up against this, as you know? What is this gonna be like for us? Will we be vibrating, but not at a level that exceeds whatever that maximum is?
Sure, the designer has set a level and we will not be exceeding that level.
So we'll be vibrating under that level.
That's right. Now, when we did the test piles at Reach 7.
Yeah.
Near Regatta.
Yeah.
We were way below levels, the vibration.
Okay, but we're being much closer, right? These are gonna be right up against us.
Yeah.
I can tell you during the earthquake, my sofa went like this.
Right.
Oh, yeah,
So I, you know,
it was crazy.
But we'll-
okay, well, I'm not gonna talk more about that, but
It'll be constantly monitored.
this, and how long is this gonna be constantly going on, these vibrations? Okay, good years.
Well, it'll be off and on.
It depends on the phasing of, it'll be, depend on the phasing of the work and when that work is scheduled to happen.
Will there be any days during the week that are not, like, will Sundays be a day that construction doesn't happen? Or is it 7 days? Are you filing for early permits, late night? I mean, that's kind of what,
We're not filing for, your overnight work has to happen in 9A, like that work will happen overnight. If that work happens, that's the way that it's permitted.
I'm not talking about that, we're talking about.
Right, so the goal, it'll be operating during normal construction hours, which in the city are 7 to 6. We're
10, in
7 to
Saturdays?
6 will be
5 days a week.
5 days a week.
Only 5.
Only 5. Now, as I said, like weekend work is like emergency work that's required. It's like catch-up work, but it's also work that has to be noticed in advance if we're doing weekend work.
I can't speak for everyone in Battery Park City and in Gateway, but from 7 AM to 6 PM, vibrating noise, sound and dirt, I will go insane over 3 years. I don't know that it's, you know, I worry about how livable that will be when it's happening right there. It would be nice, from my perspective, if sound related work would start until 9 and ended. I mean, kids come home from school, they're gonna have to do their homework, they're gonna, you know, whatever.
I think
You know,
that's,
so
yeah, I mean,
I just think 7 AM to 6 PM of nonstop noise, vibration, all the things that go with it,
Home.
will
yeah, I mean,
take a real toll. I mean, do you
So-
think it
so-
will take a toll on people?
So I actually,
I would-
was gonna say, just to interrupt for a second, we should acknowledge, and I think there, you know, we all know, we've all lived through construction, you know, in our buildings. This is gonna be very painful for anyone who's experiencing it in the moment. And we shouldn't mitigate, you know, we shouldn't say it's not. So I think it's really good to raise all the concerns you have. And I think unfortunately, you know, you're exactly right. We should ask for as much notice and limitation as possible.
I think this is the time, and I think
Oh,
this isn't just, this is just a couple
absolutely.
of months, this is
No,
5 years
absolutely.
outside our windows.
Yeah, so I think
Anyway,
one of
I
the,
don't wanna hug the conversation.
no, I think one of the things is that this is a 5-year project in total, and for some areas, it's gonna be, you know, I mean, many years, to your point. So I think we're raising good concerns, and I think we keep raising that, and then we also acknowledge to our neighbors that this is going to be something that will impact everyone. And, and I will say that, you know, but there will be an end. And I'm personally looking forward to going to the opening at the end of July for, you know, Wagner Park that's opening. And, but that, as we all know, was no picnic to get there, but we're all happy on the other side. So that's the purpose of tonight. We're not gonna tell anyone it's not gonna happen. So we should just be honest about it in terms of, to your point, like,
Well, I think what we're talking about is
Yeah.
not saying it's not gonna happen. What we're talking about very specifically is how we're gonna mitigate the effect for
Correct.
human beings.
correct.
We're gonna have to live under this.
Right, and I would
incredible stress
and I would
for
think that, like,
5
we're
years.
still, and I would think we're still actively having conversations to address, I think you brought these questions up also when we met a couple weeks ago.
Yes, it did.
And we are trying to
Correct.
work through all of them. Like, it's not that I think, fully understand to Wendy's point, this is extremely painful for everyone for long durations. We're not trying to hide that or hide the ball there.
And we're trying to say, when I see like little green checks next to the yard sound and all that, it makes.
This is for, in terms of like the process we have to follow for environmental review. We're not saying that there are not noise impacts, there won't be air, we're not saying they're not, but in terms of the way that we have to analyze, it's an exercise we have to go through.
But to not even have Gateway listed there is crazy.
Again, I think
It's
that
on
it's,
two sides.
I would say that this, no, I understand, but I would just say that this is illustrative. The document itself has looked at all the buildings in the project area, which stretches to Tribeca. So I would just recommend, again, if you have additional questions about noise related to specific buildings, please feel free to reach out to us. You know how to get to Nick. Everybody knows how to get to me.
Yeah.
Like, please reach out if you have additional questions, and I'm happy to answer them.
Okay, there's 5,000 people that live in Gateway, by
I know.
the way. So of all, you know, it's a huge concentration. Can you just explain what those blankets are, these sound blankets? Because there's definitely not enough sound mitigation going on. Do these go on the building?
Bill, you want to talk about sound blankets?
Yeah, so, you know, as the team at Battery Park tried to evaluate what was the best way to mitigate sound, you know, we have a normal Department of Buildings fence, which is a plywood fence or with, you know, some kind of structure. What we're adding to that is a sound blanket on the inside. It's a black blanket, it's insulated, it was inside, you know, it's in the middle of the sides of black, and it'll just go on the inside, and it'll help reduce the sound. And we also looked at, some areas, maybe we could do it higher, like 14 feet, some areas we can't. So it's just another layer. And then we're going to be working on piles right next to the building. We also are looking at hanging a sound blanket via scissors lifts or some lulls, a little lifting device, you know, right where the drilling is going on, and then moving that along with the drilling. Oh, yeah, mitigate the sound.
It's a 39-story building.
But then most of the sound is, you know, is where the equipment is.
I think, Bill, the question really starts to become, if we look at your FEIS, is there a full list of intensity and duration, which includes all buildings?
We looked at every building and within the entire project area. So even buildings that are not along the alignment, just to be clear, like buildings like the Conrad that are further, we looked at many receptors.
The question was, this list seems incomplete.
It's not,
It's a sample.
it's a sample.
It's a sample. I understand that
Correct.
it's a sample, and I want to make that clear to everybody who sees the slide, it is only a sample.
Correct.
And as, you know, several of our members have already pointed out, it's missing many buildings. Is the list of buildings in the FEIS with this information listed somewhere?
Yes, it's in the
Yes, it is.
table.
It's
Yes,
in the construction.
it's in the construction chapter.
And there are
Perfect.
several
It is.
gateway receptors.
Yeah, and there's,
Described there.
thank you, Jeff, for going on our website and pulling it up, because I didn't have it.
Okay.
So bad, and Bob had no sound, so.
Bob's back.
It's not necessarily good news, but they are
But
addressed.
it is, right, we have to look at every single building,
is
right,
what
in the
it
project
is.
footprint, so.
Okay,
So,
Bob's
yeah, so-
back, Bob's back. Okay, who's next at the table?
Well, you had your hand up.
So I was gonna say, I was like, Christine?
Wendy, I have a lot of questions, so I don't know, I don't expect any others to say anything, but if there's a way I can get them to someone, that would be great.
Yeah, I mean, I think.
Hit them out
I
loud
would say,
so
why don't-
everybody
Why
hears.
don't you read your list of questions, and then I would ask you to submit them in writing afterward.
To Zach and to Nick and to us.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have, so one of my main questions is I hear everything that you're doing, with the tree loss. And one of my concerns in studying climate change and what we're experiencing now is that we, as you can see right now, are having an extremely wet season. I don't think any of us know what we're gonna have in a couple of months. No one can predict it, but we'd be okay, right? But one of these things, that we've experienced is extreme heat down by vacuum because of the tree canopy loss. Anyone who studies this knows that tree canopies provide shade. They provide biodiversity, they clean the air, et cetera. And by getting rid of the trees, 450, we have significant trees in New York City. I'm concerned about what you're gonna do to mitigate the high heat that the elderly, children that we're all gonna experience before those trees. I know you're replanting, right? But that's gonna be, you have to be honest, that's gonna be a decade before, you know, at least 10 years before they get to a maturity where they're gonna provide what they need to provide, right? Mature trees have high value. So my question is what you're looking at with wind, right? As you go on through the past 5 years, the winds this winter
Yeah.
were extraordinary.
And the winds in Battery Park City more generally are rough.
But this year, they were.
But this year they were
extraordinary. April, right, and you don't know what's gonna happen next year, right? And we don't know if we're having a wet season next summer, we could have, it could just be 100 degrees for the entire summer. So I would ask that what you're doing, because I see that you're preventing a flood, and to be honest with you, that's the least of my concern. In the next 10 years, right? You know, I know this is for, so they can keep building, and you know, and I know that but we didn't really suffer like that, right? But we are. So that's question one. The second one is just, as the residents were saying, I noticed down where we are, once you start blocking everything off and doing construction, there's a lot of people who use our parks, not just residents. And they run through it, and they come from the West Village. I mean, people can run like 10 miles a day. I can't, but they do.
Same, but they
Yeah,
do.
all right, and so they come down, and our neighborhood is a place where everyone comes, and there's running groups now, that's a thing. So 30 people running at a time. People have been like, literally like knocked over around the corners. And I'm just concerned, I know, you know, one of our board members as well, you know, so, Betty, you know, discussing that, like with the runners that are coming around, it's dangerous. And I'm not sure what you're gonna do. I would love to know what you're gonna do. If you've looked at that, and if you have people like coming out on the weekends, like come into the neighborhood on the weekends and just take a look at the traffic, which is a mess. I mean, the third thing, and again, I told you I have a lot, and I'm gonna put the rest, but the third thing that I really wanna get out is, I'm not sure, did we determine whether Pump House Park is being destroyed, the trees? Or not?
We have to remove trees in Pump House. They're actually documented in the EIS, the trees we have to remove. Yeah,
Do you know how many?
off the top of my head, no, I don't. But we have it in a reach by reach section, and also we have it outlined per Pump House.
Okay, so that neighborhood right there, right by the district and all that, you guys are gonna be dotting up, right? And we had a sunny day, I think it was like maybe 2 weeks ago, but it was nice. And when it was, everyone was out.
Yeah.
What's gonna happen for those restaurants? Are they being given money to get through this? Because there's gonna be a lot of loss if you have construction there. People sit there to go look out in the river. And as you know, in our neighborhood, we've lost so many businesses already. And I don't want to see that happen because we like it.
So, great question. So, in terms of urban heat island, which is something like we think about a lot because in areas like like Waterfront Plaza in the summer or on a day that's not super summery, it's very hot. In the winter, it's very cold. So we are looking at, and our Director of Sustainability is looking at like shade structures and things like that, like where we can put them, because even when this project's built, you're still going to have areas where it's going to be incredibly hot. So we are looking at that and looking at options. I don't think we've identified any yet, to be very honest. It's very early in its early stages, but it's something when we were starting this project we thought about, because that's also extreme heat is an issue. And I think it's going to continue to be an issue. You're right, it's been a 5-year situation, not even like a 10-year or a 2-year situation. In terms of sort of directing people when they come down, like we are working on this broader wayfinding program as part of this, called the interim BPC, but that has a different name now, that we're coming to neighborhood improvements, that we're coming to the BPC committee next month to talk about in more detail. But that's the thing too, is like to let people know where you can go, where you can't go, making sure like we're getting the word out in other ways other than just like, oh, I came down here and here's a sign that says I can't go here. So it, right. So I think we are looking at that too. And then I think, so about in terms of the restaurants around Brookfield Place. So we've been working with Brookfield. We're not impacting the rest, but understanding that their outside areas are significant. But, we are still working with like Brookfield on how we they can still operate during construction, which they can, but we still want to sort of work through this. If there's a way, like Bill was talking about, of having this fence up and then maybe having some, again, you're not looking at anything pretty, but we're all looking at also using whether it's Art Bridge or some other program like we used at Wagner Park to put something on the construction fences. So it's not a green construction fence everywhere. So we're trying to find options and be flexible and work with, again, in that particular case, work with the landlord to make sure we're addressing concerns retail tenants have.
Thank you. So who's the next?
Can I tag to something that Christine just said?
Go ahead, Tim.
2 things about what she just said I find important, and one of them was a major flaw in the South Battery Park City project. Initially, the community board begged, pleaded, and said, stage it, stage it, stage it. So you weren't taking all the land off at one time. But what was staged was the demolition but everything was taken down. So when we're looking at a size project like this, if you're working in argument area 1 and 2, you don't need to tear down all the trees in 4, 5, 6, 7. And that is the problem that we begged and pleaded, and I don't necessarily see, I'm hoping it's in here somewhere. For example, we know that the work around the marina is gonna take maybe the longest.
It is the longest, yeah.
And the question is, in each area and each zone, can the trees that are going to be existing and cut down stay for as long as possible? Because what I would not love to see in the community is all the trees from reach 1 all the way down to reach 7 demolished, and you're not working in that zone yet. But because you have the construction crew coming and they are here to do the demolition, everything goes. And that's something that may be not as cost effective, but is far more people effective and more climate effective for the neighborhood for the period of time that you're working. It's a 5-year construction period. So it would be significantly better. I don't know where in the DIS but we've asked that kind of question. The general answer that we get was, yes, of course, we're staging, but that's not.
No, but the specificity, like, I don't know, and maybe we have, and then if we haven't, but if we've gotten that specific question from you,
Yes.
I think it's, again, I don't recall us getting that specific question, but it doesn't mean we didn't get it. But I think we should take it back and talk to our team about it and get back to you guys. I don't wanna, and again, I wouldn't say to say like, oh, of course, but I think we should take it back. Again, I don't recall you guys asking us like in that particular context, but again, we're talking about staging and phasing now internally and trying to work out plans, so I think we can come back to you.
I'm also tagging back to Christine's comment about Pump House Park, because one of the problems that we had in the presentations that we brought up when the presentations were at Stuyvesant is the designers and the presenters and the engineers all came to us and said, oh, we know all about this park. And this is the feedback we've gotten, because the only feedback that was actually given was about, they looked at the fixing that Brookfield paid for the park, and Brookfield's desires for what the park should have been did not go back to what the park was originally designed for in any way, shape, or form. And so their new and improved ideas were actually the antithesis of what Pump House Park was designed for, which was supposed to be not a connection to Brookfield, not a place for them to be running exercise classes. It was supposed to be for the public, a public park that served all workers in the area and all people who lived there as a refuge.
Right.
It was supposed to be,
We got the feedback.
right? And it was award-winning for it because you could sit there and feel connected to nature and birds and flowers and everything else. It wasn't supposed to be a direct connection to the marina and the boats. And every design that was presented to us talked about Brookfield's use of the space and connecting to the marina for views. That's not what it was supposed to be. And you could get the views if you were sitting at a picnic table anyway. And that the trees would be cleared off and there'd be taller walls, so there'd be nothing left.
We have actually gone back to address some of the comments that we got from you in Pump House Park. And that was in the latest iteration of the design. One of the things that we took away from the last community engagement meeting was to decrease the opening of the wall. And then also one of the comments was that, we don't want to see this huge wall coming in like Storm Park. And so we added a berm with trees that kind of block the view of the marina and of getting to the outside of the park from the inside of the park. And those updates were a direct response to that feedback.
And are we gonna get to that
Are we gonna see any of those?
today, later on today?
Is that part of the PDC presentation that we'll see?
And we can, when we get to the PDC presentation, we can
talk about that.
We do have some reach by reach
Okay.
stuff that we can go
Right,
through.
let's table that for a little bit later.
We have some additional views that we can send to you also.
Okay, that's great.
And
Okay,
then
thanks.
I appreciate that. And then the last thing is, on the alignment thing that I did not see on the slide, that many people had asked, and I'm sure it's in the FEIS, and I'll go down there and look. There were concerns and questions as to why, on the alignment in the north, which is reaches
One and two.
2, 3, 4, something, you know,
2 through 4.
right around Rockefeller. There were concerns about the alignment and where it was versus being in the middle of the street, for example, somewhere, like what was happening there? Why did it need to be in the park itself, which ate up, I think somebody was arguing over 3 square feet. I don't remember who on the board, but there was an argument of why you would take off any square footage off the playground and then any square footage off the green space versus taking off footage from the streetscape.
We did get that comment. We did address it.
I was gonna say,
I didn't see it in the alignment.
I think
It's not, it wouldn't be, it wouldn't be like in the, it's, I believe it's in the response to comments, because we did get that comment that it should go down River Terrace. And that way you don't have to impact the park, you don't impact the trees, you don't impact anything. We did have that as a comment that was submitted to us that we responded to.
I remember that. That is-
Yeah, we did respond to that comment.
Yeah, I think the response is that there's reasons why it's not changing, this, my opinion.
Yeah, we did have like the rationale for why we didn't put it in the middle of the roadway, why we chose to not put it at the curb line, because we'd have to remove all the trees. We're able to keep the trees by putting it in the same place the walls today. We were actually able to expand and gain back some square footage of the playground and increase the space of the playground because of the placement. So again, we can, but at that particular one, I know we did respond.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and it might be, that might be one of those areas that,
And then just my final thing is an apology to the committee, because I was down and out on Friday, but I will go back and correct my record. We actually received the presentations from Nick and Claudia and the team Friday afternoon. I was out and horizontal, but I'm gonna say I apologize on behalf of the office not sending it out Friday.
Thanks. Just real quick for the group, and thank you for that. The questions, Christine has, that's the one that was sent on Friday. The
Yep.
presentation I sent you this second, with the questions were on Friday. Just so you know.
No, Jackson also like to take this one, is that possible?
Oh, yeah, no, go for it. We sent it digitally.
I don't do well digitally.
I am the same way. I honestly, like, I sometimes like need it in front of me, feel free, but,
And then
so the yellow, just so you know, so the yellow, Alice's name is highlighted here just because she had also submitted comments, but the words, like, Tammy said, 2 words attributed to Zach, that's actually from the community board resolution, so all those highlights are in yellow. It's very, very pale,
orange or yellow?
yellow. So
Yellow.
Zach's are in yellow, or the boards are in yellow, Tammy's are, Alice's are in orange, and then ours are in green, which are very light. Our printers, sorry, we're not working that great today, but it's the light green in the words you see response numbers.
Okay, that's good.
Justine,
Ken, you had just a really good point, and I want to just not to put too fine a point on it, but to emphasize this very, very real sensitivity we have to your point about not taking away public space until we know we're going to start the work. I think that is really that's something we're ready to do, but certainly we recognize the sensitivity to that, right? So people see construction fencing go up, public space blocked off because work has to happen. We want to make sure that the work then is going to follow the schedule.
Yeah, we don't want to, we don't want to close a space and then have nothing go on for, like, we've all been witness to that, right? We close a space
We
and
got it.
work
We're not going to
happens.
be perfect, but we're going to try
We're
to
gonna
get.
try our best.
I've also brought it up before and I will mention it again. Not everybody, not every place needs to be activated. One of the reasons some people have moved over the years to Battery Park City is for its disconnect from the fray.
Yep.
So it is a place that has quiet areas and gardens and places that you can have some sense of sensory deprivation from the craziness of the city. So when you're talking about activation and other things, having a sensory perspective on things instead of looking and saying, well, look, this green space is underused. It's not necessarily underused, but it's utilized for something that people really appreciate. And having that kind of balance when you're looking at the landscape as a whole is going to be important, not only as a whole, but in section by section by section, to be able to address the needs of a multitude of types of users.
Thank you, Tammy. Okay, so who else's hands? Richard, you want to, and Justine, I'll get to you as well. I see you online. Okay, Richard.
And Robert, you're also able to unmute yourself anytime you want, unless you need my help. I think it's nice. Are you 929?
Yes, he's a 929.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
You mentioned mitigation the estuary with
Yes.
money to the estuarium.
Yes.
Could you elaborate on that?
So we are extending our North Esplanade 6 feet over the estuarium. It's gonna be cantilevered over the Hudson River estuarium area, which is currently the mooring field. In order,
Back up a little bit, my brain's not.
so our North
Where
Esplanade,
are,
and
yeah.
that's across Stuyvesant, next to Stuyvesant High School
Yeah.
and Tribeca Point. So
Yeah.
we are basically, we're extending our North Esplanade 6 feet to allow for more circulation space. Also allows us, we're elevating it to basically sort of the door level of Stuyvesant High School. And so basically, in order to do that, our property line ends at the bulkhead where our Esplanade ends. But in order to extend, so we have to go into the estuarium area, in order to mitigate the impact. You know, obviously, whenever you do in-water work, you have to mitigate impact. We're doing part of it through the Sawmill Creek, but, we worked with Hudson River Park, and the trust to determine how we could best mitigate this impact. It's a sort of a complex paperwork project on an agency side, but they felt that we would be making if we made a substantial contribution or significant contribution, which is what we're doing, to the construction of the estuarium, that would offset the impact to, that 6-foot overhang.
So that's music to my ears. What is the dollar amount that you're planning to the estuarium?
I would say it's, significant. I don't know if I'm the person who can mention like the cost of it, but that is, it's.
Let's table that when you know.
Yeah.
I think people on this committee would be
Yeah.
really happy to hear that.
We've been pursuing that estuarium
For, I know,
years and.
yeah, and we know it's a priority project for Hudson River Park too, so we were happy to do it. But it is significant, I would say.
That's great. So as soon as you know more details, we'll
Sure.
put that on the
Tell us
future
at the
agendas.
advisory council either.
Yeah.
We asked the same question because they presented at the
Yeah,
advisory
that's the
council.
last thing I knew we were on
And that was the exact same phrase we got from both Noreen and from the BPCA. A significant
Well,
contribution.
consistency is.
When we know, we'll know.
Yes.
So I should say.
Robert, Richard, it made a difference enough to get us to another step, but not enough to build the building. So we still need public funding. That's the
Okay.
answer.
Well, thank you for
And
that.
donation.
Next.
Did you have another question?
question, yes. Could you discuss more about the transportation impacts along 9A and how that would work?
Sure.
I'm still unclear how the project will cross 9A.
Oh, sure.
What
Sure.
will be there?
Sure, so we went through a fairly painful exercise in determining how we're gonna cross 9A. Obviously, it's 3 lanes in each direction. It is, obviously feeds into like a bunch of other roadways too, we should take into consideration. So we looked at a flip-up option at first, which means we'd have one flip-up gate on either side, northbound, southbound. There were a lot of concerns about that just because of the fact that it's a technology that hasn't really been tested in this type of weather environment, meaning like cold weather, salting, things like that. So we worked with city and state DOT and DEP to find the solution of putting swing gates. So basically, they rest in the median and then they swing out to lock into posts that are on the east and west side of 9A. So in an emergency event, basically it creates a seal and closes that off to water coming down. So that's how we're crossing it. So basically, from the plaza in front of Stuyvesant, there'll be like a post there, right, that it locks into. It'll cross the median, it'll rest in the median, and then there'll be one that goes on the northbound lanes as well.
How high are they?
Joe, how high are the ones on here? About 8 feet.
So it could block the view.
We located it, actually, there was a lot of discussion about location too. It's actually located roughly, if you're familiar with sort of that service gate that's by Stuyvesant High School, there's like a service gate, like
Yeah.
just right in the North Esplanade is where it meets 9A. It's basically going at that location. There was talk about putting it further north, like closer to Harrison Street, but we raised the concern that there are view corridor issues going down to the Hudson. We didn't want to have those visual impacts. So when you're going south, you still see it in the roadway. But it's not that sort of visual, like when you're looking down, let's say Harrison Street, you won't see this huge 8-foot like swing gate in the middle of
It's gonna
that.
be in the backside of the MCC, like in the. median.
Yeah, it's like further south. It's closer to Chambers Street than it is. It's like in the midpoint between Chambers and
I
Harrison.
think it's on your PVC stuff.
Yeah, right. We'll have the location on the.
You'll see it,
yeah,
right.
You'll see it, but yeah, so we were able to come to agreement that that was the best approach. And got agreement from city and state DOT and for DEP.
And how will it affect the traffic? How will?
So we have to expand the median to be able to nest them in, and in doing so, you're sort of narrowing the turn lane onto Chamber Street. So that is sort of the main southbound impact, which we're addressing by a timing signal change to turn onto Chambers. But it's really going to have that impact during construction, just because of it's very highly traveled, obviously. The work is only at night. It's a lot of significant construction. So that's where you see the real impact. I mean, there is, during that period, like that's where we're really working with City and State DOT on the MPT, because of the fact that like we're trying to maintain traffic, but it is a significant amount of work that is going to have a traffic impact. Does that answer your question, fully?
We're gonna want more on that, but like.
Yeah, we just don't have, we're just working through the details
Yeah.
on how we mitigate it, to be honest.
Right.
Like I think everybody has to sharpen their pencils on it, just because I think it's something that hasn't been done. I mean, they're doing the Battery Underpass project, but I think it's a little bit different than a project that is this significant on this section of roadway in particular.
Yeah, I'm sure we're gonna have a whole meeting just on that topic.
Yeah, we'll probably, similar to what we did in the South, but a more in-depth conversation on the MPT stuff, once we have more details on anything.
Richard, are you good?
Good.
Okay, Jeff, are you next?
Yes, just want to address staging, time staging, and noise. Using Gateway as an example. In the EIS, they identify a number of receptors that are at Gateway, and they identify phases of the construction where they will be subject to the maximum noise. And as has been mentioned, Gateway is at the intersection of two different areas of work. The stuff on Reach 6 as well as the marina in Reach 5. And in the EIS, it indicates, and I couldn't quickly find what these things translate into in terms of calendar, but phases 5D, 5E, 5E1, 5E2, and 6A as the period where there will be maximum noise at Gateway. And my comment/question is, from perspective of Gateway, it would certainly be nice if these weren't sequential phases, so that you ended up having maximum noise for 17 months on Reach 5, and then the following 17 months in Reach 6, so that you actually have 34 months of peak noise. I know lots of things go into figuring out when you're going to do what during construction, but I'd ask that you take these kinds of things into account. I'm using Gateway as an example. I'm sure it's not the only place that is subject to noise from different sources that may be phased.
Jeff, are you proposing do all the noise at once? If it's gonna be noisy, just go crazy and do all the noise?
Yes, I am.
Okay, just wanted- I just wanted to
And
clarify.
I'm not so sure that this is necessarily additive noise either. That if you have it from here and then you have it over there, I don't think it's necessarily twice as loud if you only had it in one place.
This is parallel, better than consecutive.
Yeah, basically what I'm saying. I mean, it, within reason. I mean, if you're gonna, if maximum noise is like a tolerable level, and then putting two things at once makes it intolerable, then I would say keep it at the tolerable level. But just take into account the fact that noise, you've identified when the maximum noise is throughout these various receptor sites.
That's right.
Try to make them not sequential with one another.
We can take, I mean, again, like the challenge is always with phasing is that if you do that, sometimes like it can extend one longer than than we
I
anticipated.
understand that, yeah.
But I mean, I think I mean, you heard when we were at Gateway too, like we're trying to find, as we work with buildings, we're trying to find solutions that work that also don't impact schedule and don't drag this out any longer than sort of we need to have the duration. But it's a fair point that we can take a look. Especially, I know we were talking about where we're doing that work on Bykowski, and then there's still work going on at the marina.
Yes.
Right. And considering that Gateway has construction now for the next year and a half,
Yeah.
it's,
So, we have another topic. We definitely want to move forward. Justine, is there anyone else besides Justine needing to ask a question before we go to the next topic after Justine's done? I'm just making sure I'm reading the room. Okay, that's great. Justine, the floor is yours, and then this will be the last question, and then we'll go to the next one.
Thanks so much. And thank you for letting me talk online here because I was gonna come in and then Tammy, I'm not coming in. I want to see my grandbaby this week and I'm not coming in. I'm not taking any chances. So sorry about that. But my question or my comments are everything that everybody's saying about Gateway Plaza, and I appreciate the concern that Rector Place was listed a lot and all the buildings that are the condo buildings were listed on that slide. And I do acknowledge and I'm aware that Gateway is listed in the actual FEIS. But everything that they're raising as concerns are the same for all the buildings, the condo buildings along the esplanade that's going to be affected. So we're all in the same boat, is what I want to make clear. So as you guys are arguing or advocating for your particular spaces, remember, we're all in the same boat and that we all need the same level of consideration in terms of the noise and the air monitoring. Question I had for you, and it may be that I just missed it. With the air monitoring, you said you're going to do a report once a month, but you're going to have real-time information, correct?
Yes. Yeah, we have real-time monitors that I was saying, I think you may not have been on yet, Justine, or you might have been in transit, that we have real-time monitors, like give alerts,
okay.
They're 24 hours a day. So we do
So
have.
the work would stop or whatever, and then you'd figure out what was wrong.
They
And
would be notified if there was an exceedance, we would stop, like things like that. But yeah, they're real-time monitors, and that's what we have in the South Project too.
But the public
okay.
doesn't.
Wait, the public
air buffer?
isn't informed. Is that what you're saying, Tammy? Because that's where I was going to go.
We're going out and we'll make sure that we make that clear to people. I would just say like these meetings are ongoing, like we're having them 2 or 3
No.
a week.
I'm
So,
not sure.
People know about that.
The public will find out once. Yeah, but not in real time.
Oh, in real time. Oh, you mean in real, I'm sorry, you meant in real time.
Yes, exactly. Yes, I want to be clear that for wherever you are in the project, if there's an air quality issue, people need to close their windows, turn their ACs off, or do something, and they should be informed in the minute because in real time. Yeah, I mean, as much as you can go tell the doorman, and you can just have them make an announcement or do something in the building.
Yeah, we've heard this too, Justine. Sorry, I misunderstood your question.
Yeah, no, that's okay. No, but
we
you
have heard this
didn't
also.
misunderstand. I was to say you didn't misunderstand it. That's what I first said, and then I was following it up. But go ahead.
Great. Okay, I feel better then. So
Yes.
no, but we've heard a bit about this too as we go and meet with buildings about how we notify. So I think that that's something we need to sort of work through and think about at another level as well. Like not just the monthly reports, which are great, but they're monthly reports. Like how do we write if you need to close your windows or if there's something like we need to let building management know, like how does that get to tenants? Like these are all or owners. Like I think that these are all things as we continue these conversations, like we have to figure out what the system is. I think we just we're not quite there yet. But we have to work on it for the next couple months for sure.
Thank you so
No,
much.
I think
And
that's-
Michael-
Yeah.
I would say, Michael.
No, you
your-
got to go, so that's fine.
Your jobs.
Cannot understand the answer. Sorry, louder.
Yes, I put Michael on the spot, Justine, to say, is that your job to help us figure this out?
I don't think that that's been determined yet, but obviously I'm also a very good point of contact with questions or is interested in like learning more about the project, which ask me directly via the request that university.
That's good. And we can, this is early days, so but I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but, we're gonna probably move on to the next topic, but I just wanted to also say it's good we're raising these issues and this hopefully is the first of many discussions.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no.
I think I'm gonna back up to what Justina said, which backs up, Nick, very squarely to our experiences at 250 Water.
Yes.
At the BBJ
Yeah.
site, which was intense and not in a great way. Okay, so we want, and I know that it has been said before by Community Board 1, we want an independent environmental monitor who has access to the real-time data and is part of the team that will then be able to alert the community. There needs to be community alerts for days that windows should be closed, that for whatever reason, for example, if there are wildfires and there's smoke that comes down from Canada, New York, Pennsylvania, whatever, and the air quality combined with the construction is not safe, then Battery Park City Authority and an independent monitor should be able to inform the community. It is not enough to have the monitor then note the report and 30 days later. Not in this neighborhood, not for general public, definitely, but not for an immunocompromised
Yeah,
community.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
If it's in our quality of the day, it doesn't make sense to find out about it after it's passed, right?
Correct. So I don't know if it's in your FDIS about the independent monitor. I know it's been asked. But
Yeah.
It's not specific, like, I don't think it's specifically called out because again, it's been brought up in meetings, I think. I
Yep.
think we've heard you here and we need to go back and discuss it internally, but it's something that we heard before. Becky has heard, I think, several times in meetings, but like we've heard it. I think we need to go back and talk about it internally and how.
we can guide you on how it worked for 250
That would be
water.
helpful.
Because I do think that 250 water was probably the best, both
Yeah.
development and public dialogue, alerting the community. It involved two schools, the neighborhood residents, commercial buildings. So I think that worked and I'm happy to take that offline. But that was a critical key to success in a way that you need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It did work very well. So, yeah,
If I
one more
could just
thing.
close with just a comment to say, as you said, Wendy, earlier, and as everybody else, this is going to be a heinous process for everybody. It's going to suck. That doesn't mean you shouldn't be as open and communicative as possible. It's okay to be passing off bad news. People will
Yep.
grumble a little bit, but they'll be happy to hear the bad news because you're doing it in a way that's protecting them. So always remember that and hold on to that. And one more thing, we don't have to go into it now, is the finances that Richard was talking about in terms of maintenance. I'd love to talk about that, but not now. It's too late.
Thank
We can
you.
talk-
Maintaining.
Yeah, we can talk about O&M at some point too, if you want to.
Okay, so, is it short, Jill?
I just wanted to add to what Michael had said. My experience in the past, since the Gateway meeting, the community doesn't understand the construction that's about to happen. People saw all the signs and everything for design, and design's nice, design feels good, or you don't care about design. But none of it was about construction, and I think the shock on the Gateway Plaza phone call made clear people had no idea what's in store for them. The beautiful design, come to a design meeting, it's so different from this. The people I talked to in the dog run, the people I talked to when I got from drinks, the people I talked to in the neighborhood who aren't part of the community board, just people who live there do not have a clue what's coming.
Well, and I think that's a good place to stop, Jill, and I think that's one of our responsibilities as democratic citizens to make sure that we're telling our neighbors what we're learning here, because I think to your point, when we tell people, yeah, we're learning it, and we don't need all the answers today, but I think as much as we can warn people, because construction is going to start as soon as the late winter of this year is my understanding. I mean, I'm sure we don't have the exact date, but and it's phased and the whole thing, but it will start maybe the end of this year, early next year, and it will go for 5 years. And we know there's always people who are shocked, even though, there is the broadsheet and there's, news and there's our website and there's signs and everything. And there's signs and there's, you basically can't get them to pay attention until
Bulldozer runs down the street.
exactly. So, but I really appreciate that, it's our job as well to tell our neighbors and to have and to get the word out.
It's not our job.
No, I hear you. Jill, So Jill, it's our job not to explain it away or whatever, but I will just say, it's my job to tell my kids, like, read this, and they still don't read it.
Well, one thing that we really do want to help
Yeah.
be part of that process, because I hear you,
Yeah.
you can't go tell everyone. And I do hear when else that you want to be involved, and I get it, I'm a district leader, my neighborhoods, I understand.
Yeah.
However, one thing that I wanted to add, we have a postcard that's going out in the next few days. We just finalized everything. It has a QR code to our new resiliency website that just went live. It's going out to everyone in the neighborhood, commercial and residential. So this will help. And we're going to do another mailing as well, along with coming to things like this and talking to y'all. We want to make sure that the first time people see and hear about it isn't, to Jamie's point, when bulldozers roll in, they should.
Because
your
Gateway
mailbox.
Plaza is not telling the new tenants.
I hear you.
In your mailbox, it will say, construction is coming to Battery Park City. You get a physical thing, you can see it. Now, to Wendy's point, you go like this, check it. But you physically get something in your hand that you have to hold and look at and decide whether you want to check it or.
All right, thank you.
So
It's
any
got the
address and that's-
QR codes on the front and back.
Okay.
So
I think QR codes is actually a really great idea because that's something we've gotten used to
Yeah.
post-COVID. So thank you for this topic. I think that we're going to put this one to bed and move on to the next topic. But this was a very lively discussion and there's a lot more to discuss. And there's a lot of reading we all have to do.
Right, on our website, under environmental review, you'll
Yeah.
find every single chapter. Like I said, it's a very light read. Read on the weekend, but thank you guys again, like I would just make it clear, like we want to hear everyone's feedback. We don't have all the answers right now, but we're working towards them, so we appreciate having a platform to talk about these things. And again, like, we may not always agree, but at least we can have, like, Wendy, to your point, like a civilized conversation about it and like understand that we're not gonna be everybody's favorite person for 5 years. I get it. It's fine. Also, thank you for letting me steal your water. We're gonna go steal some more.
Okay, go steal some more.
I'll even make us tea if you need some.
No, just water. It's hot in here.
It is hot in here, always. It's always hot in here.
Turn the AC on if it's-
So how, no, I think we're okay. I was gonna say, we're gonna save the energy. We're the environmental committee. So, I think we're ready to move on to the next topic. Who is addressing that?
Kimberly?
Okay, great. You want to come up front or what do you want to stay down here?
I'm gonna have,
Okay.
Rachel from Big and Lee from Skate present to you in the same way that we presented to, the Public Design Commission. So
Perfect.
they're going through the Public Design Commission's, presentation exactly.
Oh, perfect.
So, and there are 30 slides, and we did not go through each one with them. So we're gonna,
So, yeah,
we'll start by presenting the same way we presented to them, but if you have questions, we'll go to those.
Great, okay, great.
so when you present to, just for those of you who don't know, I'm sure quite a few of you already do, when you are proposing to the PDC, you send a package and then you also have a 10-minute long presentation. Our project is huge and there was no way that we could cram a presentation of all of these slides into those 10 minutes that we had for phase 10 of the PDC. And so we went through a very abridged, very quick version that was very rehearsed. We have a little bit more time today. So what we'll do is we'll start by going through, I think, the initial PDC presentation that we did deliver to the PDC verbatim so that you guys can see what we talked about and what we did. And then if we have questions, we do have a reach by reach appendix in this where if there are areas of the design that we want to revisit, we can. I think some of you know this, maybe not all, so I'll say it now. Not all of our project is within PDC jurisdiction. So when we go through this, you're really going to see kind of small snippets that fall within public right of way that are in PDC jurisdiction. And if there are questions about that, we can answer that too as we go through the process.
So I feel like my question to answer.
Yeah. And so, I'm with Big and Leah's with Scape and our firm have divided up the scope of the project. So Lee and I will be presenting different areas of the project, but the same stuff.
I'll just run.
Okay, are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
Face it this way.
Oh, that's right, they're doing it all. I was doing.
Are you sure you don't, will it not be?
You wanna try?
We don't
Let's
know.
try it.
Give it a shot.
Let's see. Okay,
Aim towards here.
you're there?
Yeah, the computer's the one that controls it, I believe. There you go.
Oh, great. All right.
So you should have been helping me when I was.
All right, now we're good. Okay, so we'll start off with a brief introduction. This was presented, again, a few weeks ago, so I think that there's been some schedule updates, but the project was split into 2 submissions when we did this. And that's because of stakeholder feedback that we've been receiving, especially in Reach 1. Reach 1 has been delayed. And that is DOT feedback regarding whether to do the flip up gates in 9A versus the swing gates. And then it's also some additional engagement with stakeholders because that wall is going so close to the BMCC and Independence Plaza buildings in that area. And so we're still designing a lot of Reach 1. So we did submit the Reaches 2 through 7 preliminary and final in this last submittal, which is what we'll go through here, only because it's just much more farther along. So the overall project construction schedule, we're looking at having the GMP for reaches 2 through 7 to be finished by SLEET summer of 2025. And we're looking at construction to be phased by reach starting in January of 2026 and to go through December of 2030. Reaches 2 through 7, we believe will start construction before reach 1. And that's because of the schedule lags that we were just addressing. The reach 1 development is kind of on its own separate timeline because of these delays. The 90% for reach 1 is proposed to be delivered to BBCA July 25th. The reach 1 GMP insurance and approval is November 2025. Or to December 2025. And then the Reach 1 construction, the utility will start in January of 2026. And Reach 1 construction, it's for the project itself, will be February 27. Wow, that's a really exact date. February 2026 through April of 2030.
Can I just add to that?
Yeah.
That those dates are subject to our negotiations with New York City DOT relates to SHIP. And we'll start the main wall in 26. We may start some early utility work at the end of this year.
And is the utility work in front of Stuyvesant, or is that?
It's in different regions,
Okay.
including Stuyvesant, in front of Stuyvesant.
Okay.
And, you know, there's a large CSO and fiber optic.
And say what that is. CSO is a combined.
And sewer.
Right, so,
Exactly.
And then there's a big fiber duct bank that needs to be located.
and that's from the center median, correct?
No, that one, no, it's closer to, you know, between the bike path and Stuyvesant.
And does the work on the state DOT current study for the reimagining of 9A have any impact on this project?
That's a longer term project with 9A. So they are taking into account our project.
Okay.
I mean, I've seen it at the meeting, so they're just starting that project and it's years, it'll take years.
Okay.
And I would just also say, it's a side note, this is what I bring up every time. I hope people are, besides the signs, filming it and reporting on it so we can, you know, learn from it and share our amazing knowledge that we're going to learn in New York City, because the rest of the country and the world we're all dealing with the same things. So when we educate especially our young people who want to do engineering, they're interested in the details. So if there's any way we could teach as well as do.
We would certainly be happy to come to schools and give presentations.
Not come to schools, videotape it and create, I was gonna say,
Archival.
and archival and, you know, maybe real time, open it up to press. We can talk more about that online, but I, as much of that as we could incorporate into this 5-year project, I think it could be, it will be very frustrating for all of us, but could also be inspirational.
And can you explain if this has been approved by PDC yet?
It has not. We have submitted to them this preliminary and final package, and then we are submitting to them. We resubmit to DOT next Friday for reaches 2 through 7 again.
And is it subject to our comments still?
It is I believe it is a public process.
So do you know when PDC is holding the hearing, a public hearing on this?
Is this hearing the one that's in July?
It is.
We're
We're
still
July,
live.
the July.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the reach 1 will follow in August.
So 2 through 7 July, reach 1 August.
Do you know when in July?
So
Side by side, I don't.
Okay.
I'll look it up while we're.
It would be great if we would know that, yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
Sure. No. We're doing this so much more slowly than we did with the PDC. We've had this like down to get it all in under 10 minutes. So doing it with a little bit of pleasure is
Enjoyable.
nice. Yeah. So I'm gonna flip through the slides that we skipped for the PDC presentation so that we can go right into the meat of how we presented it the way we did for them. If if we want to revisit some of these slides, we can. I will say that some of these slides are old from previous presentations that you guys have seen in community engagement meetings as well. So this is looking at the FBS experience. This is a kit of parts that we put together for how we came up with the design of the flood barrier wall. And then this is a small little vignette that talks about the kind of design and experience of the flood barrier wall. This is talking about, we did receive a comment from the PDC and some of the early submissions talking about why is the wall thickened where we have the gates. This looks very like large and ungainly. This is actually an engineering strategy. We need these larger columns at the gates in order to support the weight of the gates themselves. So this is looking at some of the module layouts for the flood wall. We have larger, smaller modules. We also have strategy for transitioning modules around corners.
Does module mean a section?
Yes.
Okay.
So we've laid out the flood barrier system in 8-foot increments, which is the maximum length of form liner that is recommended by form liner manufacturers. And so we've worked with form liner manufacturers in order to come up with kind of this 8-foot module with this pattern that you see here that can vary across the site in a couple different ways. The way that this has been presented at the last community engagement meeting, but the way that we came up with this scheme is that in larger portions of the wall, this pattern tends to stretch out. And then as you get closer to gates, you start to get this kind of smaller pattern.
I've noticed that you have them around now on the other fronts.
Yeah.
Right? And so there's the barrier, there's the plastic barrier, and then there's fencing. Right? They're all gonna be 8 feet high?
Not all of them, no.
Okay.
No, it's just that the length of the form liner module is 8 feet long. The wall is different heights depending on where it is on the site and how far inland it is.
Okay. What's the maximum and what's the minimum, please?
Off the top of my head, I believe the maximum is 8 feet 6 inches, and then
Just up to 10.
just at the 10 at north.
Can you say that a little louder?
And the smallest?
It's 2 feet high for the kids.
Okay, so you said 2 feet and then up to 10.
Okay, thank you.
So 2 feet is where?
River Terrace.
And 10 feet is where?
So Northmore.
Northmore.
To clarify on River Terrace, it starts from 2 feet and goes gradually up to about 4 feet.
Gotcha. And the wall along BMCC from Chambers, from wherever you cross midway and go up, is at what length? Is that 10 feet the entire length
It
of?
is for most of, that is actually one of the most vulnerable areas on the project in terms of resiliency, and so that is where the wall is the highest.
And will it always look like a massive wall, or will it be able to be dressed?
So, yeah, we do have some views, and
Perfect.
we are addressing it, in the form liner and the integral color. And the tombstones that you see on site right now are actually color tests for the integral color.
We didn't pick the name, that's just a common name that's used for them.
Yeah, where are
That's what they're.
Yeah, they're large scale mock-ups,
Good.
and
What are color samples, but they're called for some reason tombstones, it's not a.
I've never heard that. One of the guys pouring it, it's like, oh yeah, it's a tombstone.
That's probably like a common term.
And for those of you who are not sure, that they're at Esplanade Plaza, they're right by the volleyball court, you'll see them behind like they have a yoga
I've
outfit.
seen them all everywhere. I walk up and, yeah.
We've had them there for.
I should use a different name.
Yeah, it needs to
That's
be
fine.
right.
The colors are
Large scale.
It needs to be right.
large. Color samples. But yeah, large scale colors.
Walls.
So, what does it say? So this is your 10, is this now the start of the 10-minute?
No, that was started, that 15 minutes was start of the 10 minutes.
Sorry about that. Okay.
It's okay. We're not in a hurry. We're here for you guys.
Okay.
But
So-
we don't want to sleep here, so.
No. So now we're getting into the areas of PDC review. So there's, again, when we talked, actually, I think this is where I handed it off to Greta.
Sure. So as Rachel was explaining, there are actually very small
pieces of the project that fall within PDC jurisdiction. They include the street ends where the public right of way extends into the project area, so that applies and reaches 6 and 7, as you can see on the left. We'll zoom in a little bit so you'll see them more clearly. The more substantial areas are in Route 1. Even here, you know, some of the project areas within state DOT jurisdictions, that's not subject to PDC review. So we have a piece at Harrison and then the majority of Northmore, the south side. So on the next few slides, we're looking at these a little bit more closely. You can see the street ends in reaches 7 and 6. So we have First Place, we have South End Avenue, West Thames, Rector, and tiny piece on Albany. And then at the Irish Hunger Memorial, the area that you see in orange on the right side, that's actually part of City DOT right of way. So that's kind of a visual continuation of River Terrace where it meets BC Street.
I ask you, I just don't understand something here. Could you just explain why some areas are under PBC, why some are not?
Good question.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
why would the
It's a great
public,
question. I can explain
yeah,
why.
the Public Design
Yeah.
Commission has what?
Public Design Commission has jurisdiction over the city right of way. And so in Battery Park City, lots of our right of ways or streets are, some of them are, like River Terrace is owned by the authority. The authority owns River Terrace, we own North End Avenue. And originally we owned all of the streets in Battery Park City and then handed them over in a deeded process to city DOT. However, there are these bits and pieces that still are within the city's right, that are still fall the city right of way. For example, First Place, for those of you who have lived there for a while, First Place was supposed to be like a regular, sort of cul-de-sac, Battery Park City, very typical street. If you've been by the Museum of Jewish Heritage, you know that that's the opposite of what it is. It's been closed to vehicular traffic. It doesn't have normal geometry of the street. So that's one of those. It's technically a city right of way, even though it is close to the street. We are working on correcting this over time, but obviously it's a process. So that's sort of happening as a parallel effort, but that's why, like, there's these little select sections, like at VC by the Irish Hunger Memorial, that used to be sort of a turnaround and part of, it was VC Place. And then it was sort of paved over, but not taken off the city map. So technically they're still in city jurisdiction.
So for example, technically North End Avenue does not end at Vesey. It is a public street that goes all the way straight that Brookfield has privatized with their security clearance.
And it also extends into the Esplanade. The actual footprint of the street extends to the Esplanade. It's like a weird street system.
So.
Thank you for explaining that.
No problem.
Yeah. Okay.
The joys of living in Battery Park City and being here long enough and being involved long enough that you start to learn which streets are, which also always contributes to getting them repaved in the winter.
So this is just a view of Reach 1 showing the portions that are, again, PDC being the city agency, they review the portions of the city right of way, as opposed to 9A, which is a state road. And the sidewalk in front of BMCC, to make this even more complicated, BMCC's property line extends 15 feet into the sidewalk, and the remainder of the sidewalk is owned by state DOT.
So BMCC.
Their property line extends 15 feet off the building to the east side of 9A, and then the remainder of that sidewalk is state DOT sidewalk.
Okay.
So that's not part of.
That's not part of PDC jurisdiction.
Okay.
And then what is that short?
Harrison. Harrison.
Oh, that's Harrison, that's North.
Yes, so Harrison is a city street and the limit of work turns and goes up Harrison for that small little portion that you see, that little thumb, NYC DOT. But that is the extent of construction and that's why the jurisdiction is there.
Okay, thank you.
So you'll see this presentation was structured with the focus on these bits and pieces, but the PDC, and the commission is interested in understanding the project as a whole and not just the snippet. So it's somewhere in between. We're starting at the south. We're starting with South Cove, which you all probably know very well. We have a slide of existing conditions for those. And then this, again, looking a little bit more closely here, you can see all the areas in blue. That's city
right of way, city jurisdiction. The red diagonal patch, that's Battery Park City Authority. And so the orange is the overlap of city ownership with areas where the project is impacting. So those two orange patches, that's the PC jurisdiction, we're then reach 7. On the next slide is the illustrative plan of existing conditions. And then if we keep going, this is the proposed plan. So I do want to talk a little bit about the process with PVC because we did have a somewhat informal kind of pre-conceptual conversation with them as part of the sidewalk. And so this is the level of development that the plans were at that time of the sidewalk. And then on the next slide, what you'll see in this presentation marked as revised conceptual submission, this is where the plans are when we actually present it to the commission. So the changes in this area are very minor. We expanded some of the planted areas in South End Avenue, but speaking more broadly to the design here, you all probably know this very well. South Cove, architect, landscape architect collaboration, Mary Miss, Susan Child, and Stan Exton. We work closely with Mary Miss to try and maintain and preserve the design intent. And in order to do that, the flood barrier wall here is pulled as far away from the water's edge as possible, really hugging the existing privacy walls of the building so that we can minimize the impact on the existing honey locust grove and the really unique experience in the South Fork.
Does that also raise the privacy wall against the windows so people who have a view now will no longer have one?
No. The height of the privacy walls at these two buildings is, it's not consistent. It goes, I used to remember the numbers by heart, now I don't. But it goes down a little bit when it aligns with their courtyards. But the height of the flood wall is, if I remember correctly, about 6 inches lower than the height of their privacy walls that's in front of the apartments.
Thank you.
And it'll butt up against, I live right there, so it'll butt up against the current privacy wall and not be in front of the landscaping right now.
It will be.
It will. Okay, so right now we have benches and we have an iron gate, right? That just kind of runs along the.
In the courtyard? Private space or on the?
Do you mean here? The water's here and then here's where people run and then here's all the trees, right? And then here's the buildings. And so there's the privacy wall, right? And but in here, there's there's benches.
Yes.
So where's your flood wall gonna be?
It's
helpful.
It's against the
Like
building.
Oh, so it's gonna butt up right there. So
Yeah, Christina, you want to, it's this orange line here.
Yeah.
It's right up
And here's the
against
existing.
Here's
Okay,
existing.
so it doesn't affect the landscaping that's currently there at all.
It will. Yeah.
How thick is it?
So the one thing is that our understanding is that they have to remove things to go deep.
Exactly.
And for those of you who are fairly new, because we've had past meetings about this,
Yeah.
is that, because of the impact of the water that's coming in, it's going quite deep below. I don't know all the engineering, you guys can go over that again, but it is, it's not what we think of as traditional wall that just gets built on top of, because we went through that, like, can't you keep the wall that we have and just do something? So,
Maybe it's in the slide.
okay, thank you. But you're right, they're gonna put it back.
So we have this section, if you would look at the top right, you see a little plan with a red line. Yeah, that's where this section is located at the end of South End Avenue. So
Could you talk a little louder?
Sure.
Yeah, thank you.
This is the existing condition. On the next slide, you can see the proposed. So the section is cutting through the location of the gate. And you can see the monolith in the ground where the gate sits. This is a flip up gate. And so to be deployed, it flips out of the ground and to close that opening. We have a view of the opening This is very intentional in this location to try and maintain as much of the open views at South End Avenue as possible toward the water and toward the South Road. Our next section, next slide is the view. This is an earlier view that we had showed to BC previously. They require in all their presentations to show any previous materials that you've showed them and then show how those have changed. So that's why we're including some of the older stuff. But if you go to the next slide, you can see the most recent. This is getting a little bit cut off at the bottom. I don't know if you can either zoom out or scroll.
I can. Okay.
Right, I think you could do both.
There you go.
Thank you, Sammy. That's great. Thank you. So you can see the opening and the darker gray band. That's the flip up gate, and you can see the thickened columns that Rachel was mentioning on both sides of the gate and the wall. And again, you can see looking from South End Avenue, maintaining that view. We can go to the next slide. And on the next slide, we're looking more closely at the materiality.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we go there.
Oopsie, did I go too far?
That's great, that's great.
Oh.
So it's another thing that PBC likes to pay very close attention to. And you can see the hex asphalt pavers, the concrete wall itself, the FBS wall. We are including stainless steel bollard sleeves, so there will be removable bollards here to allow for ambulance access. We're putting back the bike racks. We're putting back the cobblestone in the areas where they currently exist, which is in the furnishing zone, so not where we want to maintain pedestrian accessibility. And then we have planting around the FPS wall with a new flat rail to protect the plants.
Those cobblestones currently have now been replaced by permeable cobblestones. Are you gonna put permeable ones?
So throughout the project area, within Battery Park City Authority, there are, wherever we can, we're using permeable pavers. That's, the project that was done there was a pilot to test, there are a few of those in different parts of the Battery Park City to test different types of permeable pavers. We're using the knowledge from that project in the ones that we're installing in the project. So specifically here, there will be cobbles, but in many of the other project areas, we're using permeable, different types of permeable pavers.
Can I ask, I don't remember bollards being at the end of South End now. I remember there was a move to use natural stone and things like that for barriers versus bollards, which are very industrial looking.
Right.
Can you explain why the move to something like bollards?
Happy to. What's here right now actually is the colloquially known sugar cubes, those white concrete blocks that you need a forklift to move.
Yeah.
The reason we're not using boulders or something kind of a little bit more natural in this area is we do need to maintain emergency access. So we're using the bollards because we have a type of bollard that can be removed for ambulances to be able to access this area and get onto the Esplanade.
Versus any of the other street ends, will they all have these kind of bollards now?
So this is the treatment that we're using in street ends where we're trying to both protect from any kind of vehicular encroachment, but also allow for emergency access when needed.
So that is a design difference from where we currently use other types of.
Yeah, we have just those sugar cubes, which are just big concrete blocks that you can lift with a forklift. And so we replace them with this.
There used to be at the end of South End, a more beautiful looking kind of with a chain, if you remember.
Yeah, so there's kind of, when you look at security bollards, there's a couple different criteria that you want to meet. You want to be able to keep cars out when the bad cars want to come in, but you also want to be able to allow emergency vehicle access when they need access. when you have something like a stone or a sugar cube that can be moved by a large car, and we don't want that. Actually, sometimes the sugar cubes are meant to be pushed out of the way by emergency vehicles. And we want we feel more comfortable with a little bit more robust security measures at these streets.
Also, just to note that within the city right of way, also when we go, this is also subject to revocable consent, NYPD counterterrorism has to review. And so this is pretty consistent with what we did on the South project as well. Like, we have to make sure that they're satisfied that we can't have, as you probably know, like, we've had incidents where cars have driven on our Esplanade, which seems crazy, but it's something that has happened actually more than once. So especially, it seems insane, but it's happened more than once. So we have to sort of satisfy NYPD counterterrorism also.
And it's just, I guess my question is with walls and brick, and it's a contextual change and a design change from the Battery Park City original designs, which were far more nature-based.
So let's say that.
So did that come up at all in PDC, or is it just walls and bollards?
Not in terms of our conversations with them now. No.
So I'm not sure if this is in the Public Design Commission, but to the right, like what, is it just the light tan and we're not, I'm just curious, because to the right, it looks like there's like a little gap and some other things. I just, or are they just looking at the flip up piece of it? Like, I'm just on the side to the right.
By the Regatta building, you're talking on the far right of this, there is a different treatment. They did look at it sort of in overview sense, but we have a slide up, like a half wall slide up gate for the building on that side.
Okay, so maybe we'll deal with that later, but we'll be curious about that, but we'll save that for next, so that's fine. And just out of curiosity, how wide is the flip up gate here? 50 feet, okay. And it flips up to 6.5 feet? I think the slide before said that the column is 6.5 feet.
Yes.
Okay.
Can I ask a quick question?
Looks much taller, just the gentleman.
Yeah, this is fun. Who asked that?
That's Justine.
Justine.
Just a quick question. So going back to the bollards that are there, there's something there now. What's there now is not safe? Is that what this is saying?
The sugar cubes are there now.
And that's not good enough.
Block with the NYPD.
No, because trucks can move them, Justine, like a car, apparently cars like to go through there. And then they want, so they.
I mean, no, I am totally on board with protecting against cars, not challenging that. I guess I wonder if, because we those ugly, horrible things with the big white bollards, don't want that, big white things that are up along by PS IS 89. They're there, they protect, and it seems like a thing. Yeah, those are different. Don't want that. But so this is removable, but yet, what? I'm sorry?
They're being taken away. No more sugar cubes.
No more sugar cubes. We're going to this now.
Okay, well, let's stop there. Let's go
I have a
on to the
question
next
about
thing.
the bollard. If they're removable, is there a security concern about that?
So there is a specific mechanism for removing them. It's not that, like, I could, go in and remove them tomorrow.
They're all low.
Yeah, it's disgusting. It's disgusting.
They're in the bike lanes, they're in the.
Not all of them are.
Not all of them are. It's in like it's for like a ambulance access or fire truck access, and they're generally removable.
I think
we have a resolution from Community Board 1 asking New York City and counterterrorism. There are 1,010 different ways to be able to do. I mean, this is fastest, cheapest, and security approved, so it's used a lot, but I mean, it's what's used around banks. So, to put it around a park.
Okay, let's go to the next thing.
Yeah. Tell me if it doesn't work, I'll hit the button.
The ones.
Face this.
Yeah, they're usually 3 and the outside ones are.
I gotcha.
And they could remove this.
There you go.
Probably next year.
Also,
There's a sugar.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's existing here too. That's existing.
I'm back in that.
We were used to. And so this is just to wrap up the South Cove conversation. This is the view from the other end of it in the first place, where our project meets up with the South project to close up that line of the fence. So on the next slide, you'll see on the bottom, the flood barrier wall turning the corner and meeting, that gray wall there is representing a piece of the wall from the South project and an additional flip up gate that closes up First Place. And so on the right side of the frame, outside of the frame, is the Museum of Jewish Heritage.
Isn't that 50 Battery?
Yes.
Aren't you missing Mother Cabrini?
She's behind us.
Back. I think she's behind us.
Behind us, yeah. That sounded weird. She's behind us. There.
Okay,
She's just to the left of the tree on the top.
gotcha. Next slide.
Next slide, I think we're again looking at materials. The intent here, so the planter that we see on the left is going to be impacted by construction. And the intent is to reconstruct it to match the existing conditions. Other than that, in terms of materiality, same pavers and the wall. On the next slide, so for each of the reaches, we have a little bit of information on the planting palette. That slide is interesting. Yeah. So especially in Reach 7 in the South Cove, we're building on the existing palette, which is very much based on native species, and trying to supplement that with species that would help us maintain visual interest across multiple seasons, but still very much based on native species.
Tell me how fast you want me to go through them.
Yeah, sorry. This is, so they're split up a little bit just to explain the difference. We have a slide of the plant palette for the whole range, and then a slide that's only showing the species that are within PDC jurisdiction. Here we included a couple of slides from the staff project just for context. So you can see the gate in the middle there between the Museum of Jewish Heritage and 50 Battery. That's where we were, that's the one that we were just looking at in the perspective view. And then on the next slide, we have an elevation from the staff project as well. So this is looking towards 50 Battery, yeah. I think we can continue on the next slide to Reach 6.
And this is where the maps meet. Reach 6 is a little bit faster because the areas of PDC jurisdiction are much smaller. We're looking mostly at Reach 6, we're looking at what we call the three street ends, and it's where West Thames, Rector Place, and Albany Street terminate into the park. Each of these have a little bit of a different treatment, but for the most part, we're looking to replace the material that is there in kind that is within PDC jurisdiction. So we'll talk about that. There's also, we can go to the next slide. Yeah, so these are the existing photos again that we have of each of those areas. And on the next slide, we kind of go through the same jurisdiction map. So all of the areas in red are BBC property, BECA property. All of the areas in blue are New York City DOT. And so as our limit of work line overlaps into the New York City DOT, that determines what is within PDC jurisdiction for the project. And so if you go to the next slide, you can see that it's very, very small areas within the project. And within each of these areas, again, most of the material that is being disturbed is being replaced in kind. So we're replacing the existing stone curves that are there, the cobbles, the tree grates, the light poles. We can go to the next slide. The area that has kind of the most impact within PDC jurisdiction is in West Thames, and because that's part of our wall falls into PDC jurisdiction here. So again, this is showing BPCA property versus NYC DOT jurisdiction. The next slide shows the overlap that shows with our limit of work line that shows what is in PDC jurisdiction. The next slide will show This is the existing, plan that we have here. You can also see that we have sitting stance that is at this street end. And in the next slide is the proposed plan. And so this is what we, proposed for our concept submission. And this is actually another great area to talk about with you guys, because some of the feedback that we received in our last community engagement meeting is that the way that the gate was crossing the street end, the way that it was not perpendicular to West Thames, is it was closing off the view from the street to the Esplanade. And you guys asked us to look at a couple different studies in order to either widen the gate or to reconfigure the gate so that you can get better views down the street. We're a little bit constrained because we don't want to locate the gate and the gate monolith on the platform structure. That would be incredibly expensive and require the replacement of lots of platform and require a lot more construction. And so what we did on the next slide, we actually pulled the gate farther into land, and then we rotated the gate configuration so that it's perpendicular with the center line of the street. So as you're walking down the sidewalk of West Thames, you're driving down West Thames, you can see right through this 50-foot opening in the gate of West Thames. What this does do is it puts the wall within PDC jurisdiction. So this is one of the areas where they can comment and make recommendations on the wall. Another couple things to point out is we are proposing bollards in this area to keep vehiculars off of the platform and off of the Esplanade. We are replacing some trees, and then we reconfigured those planters. In a lot of area, a lot of the kind of design intent and goal was to kind of use plants to up against the FPS as much as possible so that you don't have this large stark wall. And so in this area, you can see that we've reconfigured these planters to do just that. And sitting stance, thank you. And sitting stance is being relocated to what we call the wet side of the wall. We've actually designed an entire node, and its intention is to house it. So that people are still able to access it in a little bit more of a natural setting.
Where?
It's actually in the grayed out area. Since this is the PDC presentation, we weren't highlighting its new location because it's not within their jurisdiction. But if you look directly below where it says bollards relocated, that text bubble, you can see kind of faint orange outlines within that node, and that is where PDC is relocated.
So you're gonna put it against the water? Sorry if I can interrupt your, so you're gonna put the seating nodes against the water?
It's not against the water. The Esplanade is actually on the other side of it.
So, okay, so the Esplanade.
Okay. Upper level and then the lower level that you're not showing.
Is it here you're talking about it?
Yeah,
That's right.
That's where it is. And then the lower Esplanade is just above that. We're just not showing it on here. It's just above that.
Gotcha, so it's not on the water line.
It's not, it's not a big infinity rail.
Lower,
We're
this
maintaining
is
the lower
where the
Esplanade.
lower Esplanade is.
That
Yeah.
gray area
So-
there, that, like the artery, right, is that the walking space for people now?
There's
That's
also
the
an
upper-
Esplanade is there too.
There's a
Yeah.
lower and an upper, this is the upper.
Yeah.
The lower is very hard to see, but you can see it's.
That's the upper?
Yes, and then this meandering one is, sorry, that's the lower, that's the one closer to the water. They're
Lower
actually,
is here.
do you want to talk about the accessibility?
There's like different levels?
Yeah, right down there is different
They're
levels, yeah.
currently different levels. And
They're like 6 inches.
yeah, so one thing that the
Yeah.
project is addressing is the fact that you have the split level there.
Yeah.
And the level transition right now is a lot smoother.
I see. Okay, so walkers, so that was another one of my concern, because right now we have a path where people walk with their dogs and their kids and their strollers. And the runners and the bikers are on the other side.
That's right.
And it's a lot of traffic. That's still gonna stay?
That's still gonna stay.
Okay.
And so there were kind of,
Because that would be chaos. if it
yes,
didn't.
but we actually, there's
Yeah.
a couple different goals in the geometry of Reach 6. One of them is that the wall is there and we want to conceal the wall. So we want to raise the grade up a little bit in front of the wall so that we can also have planting, so that we have this nice green lush buffer along the wall as much as possible. The second piece of feedback that we received a lot in community engagement is the one that you're making right now, is that there's a fast lane where you have the bikers and the runners and there's a lot of traffic. And then We really like the slow lane where the Montessori school can walk the preschoolers and somebody can sit beside the slow lane and read a book under a tree. And so we did a couple different things knowing that we have to make up for some of those grade changes. And also we wanted to have some like traffic, quote unquote, traffic calming patterns, which is why we introduced the meander, because it's not easy to ride your bike at a breakneck speed down these meanders. And so those are kind of a couple of different goals. So the meander is the slow lane. And this is a minimum of 8 feet wide. It gets wider where we do need emergency vehicle access. And then you still have the esplanade that has the full width that it has today.
Oh, that's good. And there's still benches?
And there's still lots of benches.
Can I ask a question? Sorry, can I ask a question about the wall?
Go ahead, Justine.
Okay, thank you so much. Sorry, it's hard to tell if I'm doing something or not. But so in the bottom part here, along the buildings, right? So if this is West 10th Street, you're gonna have an 8-foot wall that's gonna be against where the wall is now. So what's the wall now? 6 feet, and it's gonna go up 2 feet-ish?
It's gonna increase 18 inches in height total.
Okay, yeah, okay, that's fine. And I know it's a new wall. Then you're gonna be coming out into where there's plantings, and we have a wall in the plantings now. And then on the other side where Liberty Terrace is, it's gonna go catty corner. What's happening to the circular West Thames Park lawn and trees and everything that's there? Because it looks like you're pushing back into that. Is that correct, or am I missing that?
That geometry is staying the way it is. Are you referring to the cul-de-sac?
Yeah, I think she is.
The cul-de-sac, and then down here where it says Thames Street, and then it looks to me like you've got the curve of the street, right? Nothing is happening to the,
That's right. That's staying protected in place.
oh, that's right. This is, you're right. I'm being an idiot. This is the wrong street. This is Thames Street. It's just a cul-de-sac. Yes, you're correct. Never
No
mind.
need to self-criticize.
No, that's
Right,
okay.
in
Yeah,
a lot
I'm
of
thinking
these
of the next
areas-
block.
In a lot of these areas where you have this little arm of limited work, this is actually for utility work, and everything that is going on top of it is to be replaced in kind.
It's great. Okay, next slide.
Okay. And then we kind of go through the same organization that we went through.
I think it's that. Doing so well.
I gotcha.
Probably needs battery.
Okay, so now we go through the same organization of slides that Lee went through, where we're showing an existing section that's there today. And then this is showing the proposed section. This can also touch a little bit on like the massive structure that is going on underneath the wall itself. You can see in this photo, I believe these are micro piles, smaller piles. And this section is being taken through a gate that you can see in the background. And then you can start to see the grade change that we have, as well as the 2 different paths. So sitting stance is in this kind of middle area. So you can see the kind of sculptural light bulb looking shape. This is where the new location of sitting stance is being relocated. And then you can see that the path is a little bit higher at the gate and the gate sill elevation, and then it's lower as you get towards the esplanade, which is being projected in place as it is now. And in the next slide, we go through an existing photo of what's there today. This is the photo of a concept submission, and this is where we received the feedback that the orientation of the gate here makes this opening look really small. And so in the next slide, it'll show you how much larger the opening is when you turn it perpendicular to the roadway.
We got it.
And we're gonna. Oh, great, okay. And then again, some of the changes here that we highlighted for PDC is some of the planter geometries were adjusted to respond to the wall alignment adjustment. We are relocating some bollards and adding new bollards, and then the wall itself changed in its configuration. And then the next slide goes through the various materials that are in the area. So we have the asphalt hex pavers. We're looking at integral color concrete with a form liner for the wall itself. There will be New York City DOT standard concrete finishes. We also have some existing stone walls that are in the area that will be reconstructed into their current location, as well as the new bollards.
Are you keeping the same materiality for the stone?
Yes, we are.
We're gonna get
and
city,
so-
regular city sidewalks versus the hex pavers that are there now? Oh, I see. You mean by the buildings, we're gonna get regular city sidewalks where they're currently regular city sidewalks.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Exactly. Sure.
Can you clarify, because currently in the back of most of those buildings, there is not necessarily a privacy wall on every that curves around the backs of the buildings onto the side streets.
That's right. So there are a series of either walls or gates that terminate at each street end behind the building. So you do have an existing privacy wall all along the back of the buildings along the Reach 6 Esplanade. And so the FPS wall alignment is following that exact privacy wall location, with the exception of here at West Thames where it's turning up the street so that we can get that broader vista. In West Thames, on each side, well, on West Thames, on the side that's on the left of this image here, there is an existing wall that terminates into the existing privacy wall at a 90-degree angle. We are rebuilding that wall. I believe it also has a gate. If these walls have gates, they will have gates in their new configuration as well. On some other areas where you don't have a privacy wall that terminates into it, you also have a pedestrian or maintenance gate, and we'll be replacing that as well. I think the one new condition that you're referring to here is where the wall does follow the building up the street a little bit more. We actually did a series of studies where we took some renderings from inside of the buildings that are looking out and looking at the impact of that additional 18 inches of the wall height on the view out. And we thought that it was not, there was an impact, but it wasn't a large impact. And we thought that creating this wider view down West Thames was the priority. And I believe that these rooms on the side were, it's there too.
It is.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. And so we can speed up a little bit here because the PDC jurisdiction areas are super, super tiny. So at Rector Place, this is the NYC DOT jurisdiction map and the BBC ownership map. Here, it's also showing the overlapping PDC jurisdiction. On the next slide, we have the existing plan. One of the big pieces that I think everybody's really familiar with and in love with is the Rector Place art piece. This will be protected in place throughout construction. And in the next slide, showing the proposed plan, this is showing the tiny little portion of Rector Place that is within PDC jurisdiction. There are minimal new materials that are going on here. The largest change that we're showing is the addition of bollards. And we can flip through that really quickly as well.
Is that just one question? It doesn't, and it may just be because it's PDC submission, but
yes,
that entire area of the Esplanade has really great seating that rip wraps the sides of Rector.
Yes.
It looks like it's all gone.
We have actually,
I see just two little benches in here, but the rest of it looks all gone.
We actually have a seating node and at the street end as well, which is in the grayed out area also.
Okay.
Okay.
But I mean.
Yeah. Point taken. Next, we're in a hurry.
Okay, yeah, so anyway, existing proposed section here, again, like to Buddy's point, we have a city note here. You can also see the gate, the new gate in section. And the next slide. This is showing the view from Rector Place, and then we go through the same kind of series of slides that show the concept submission. And then the next slide shows the materiality that has the walls, the benches, asphalt block paving, and then the integral color concrete.
Will you be able to, so it is all concrete, it is not marble, right? So where we have all that beautiful marble in that area, and that's used primarily as like seating benches, all of that is gone. And I only see two benches, so I guess in my head, one of the crazy questions becomes concrete, which is not so fantastic for heat, and not as much seating.
Sure. That's definitely something that we can look at. Another one of the comments that we received from one of the building stakeholders is that there is a lot of hardscape in this area, and it has to come back and study to add some greenery. So that's something that we're looking at. another thing I want to add is, all of the materials in this area are to be replaced in pine. So if you are seeing that, or it's actually granite, not marble, if you are seeing that granite paving, the granite paving is what's going to be there in the final condition.
That's great. That's great. Thank you.
Sure. And then, Albany Street is probably the fastest because, this is the ownership in New York DOT. This is the, PDC jurisdiction area, which is the smallest of the street ends. In the next slide, shows the existing plan. This is showing the upper room, which is to be decommissioned as part of the project. And then in the next slide shows. Thank you.
Sorry. It's below.
Understood. In the next slide, it shows the concept submission, and then this is the existing section. And the next section, the next slide shows the concept submission on proposed section. And then in the following slide, we'll go through two different existing views. And then the proposed view is going here. One of the things, we do love the upper room. I totally.
No one, there's no picnic area like that. The whole point of the upper room was it was a place to sit by the water and eat and picnic without having to buy anything like you have to at Brookfield. And the Brookfield, yeah, I mean, I'm confused as to why the relocated Brookfield art would come here into the residential zone versus keeping it in the Brookfield zone and letting this space have seating and picnic, which is what the community uses it for, gathering.
Can you go back a slide just for a second?
Yeah. You're gonna see that.
Yeah.
Go back. You can't see there's a big table, a giant table, which says, then go have our pizza.
You're going back too far to see that.
This is good in the plan.
No, because it shows that seating area.
We have new seating areas that we've created in the notes. They're kind of grayed out up there.
That's not a place to sit down and have pizza and have a picture.
It's not a place that you can gather. We're talking about places that people gather, not sit next to each other like this. We're talking about people who bring food and sit and gather. It's an outdoor space.
It was a community outdoor space.
And the kids can actually, and they do go all by themselves.
Yeah.
They could play there, you could see them.
And no offense, during COVID, we celebrated every single
Yeah.
holiday there,
It was
including New Year's, although it was
really nice. And why aren't, I'm sorry, why aren't you keeping it?
You cannot keep the piece, it has to be deaccessioned, it cannot be deconstructed and put back in place. That's not the way it's constructed. We consulted with the artist about this. We also have a DEP pipe that rests right under the upper room and we have to do drainage work on that as well. So, I mean, we did we heard a lot, I think, about like, can we take pieces of it and put it someplace else, but it's not meant, it's not meant that way, it's not meant for that.
Which is fine, then having the purpose of what it was in some way reinstated versus, no offense, but the Brookfield art,
That's not art.
it's,
My dog loves that.
the dog loves it, that's great.
Exactly. The dogs love to pee on it.
belongs-
It's too
it
low.
belongs in the commercial zone.
I think
There's no gathering. It's the biggest part of this particular space is it was one of the only spaces that was a gathering space that people could sit and picnic and eat at a presentation. So all of that is missing where you could sit and look at the water and you weren't on top of the water. You weren't in the middle of the traffic way. It was
A quiet
So-
space where you could sit and gather and eat. And and maybe we need tables here. Maybe you need to think about that. Maybe saving the table.
we hear what you guys are saying, so I think we can take it back and take a look at it. I mean, that's what we can,
Yeah,
what
I
we
mean,
can say.
I'm delighted that you want to save the Brookfield Place art, but
I think we're trying to save as much public art or protect in place or relocate as possible. And so we're trying to find spaces for some pieces that have been there since since the 1980s. We want to be able to find homes for them, but
I think this is one of the things in one of our earlier meetings is just because we want to save things in concept, it doesn't mean that it's, some things just don't work in terms of the purpose of where we are. And when you look at those pieces of art, people don't really gather there in the
Well, I
building.
mean-
They sit there, but they don't gather there, you know?
I think we've heard, I think we
Yeah.
hear what you guys are saying. No, I mean, I hear what you're saying, and I think we'll take it back and.
People
and
do
But
say-
don't take negativity on this.
Yeah, I was
This
gonna
art
say,
is in fact very well.
We like the art, but maybe
Okay,
not in
fine.
this space.
Lots of dogs use it as an obstacle course,
Yeah.
run. It doesn't serve the function of the upper room.
And maybe it's
Take
not an
comments
one or the other.
from
maybe
the
it's-
No, no one said throw it away,
I
but
think
it
it's like
belongs
a
in the
debate we've had
Brookfield space.
internally as
Yeah.
well about like how we make spaces for other pieces of art. We've had this, and Bridget can attest to this, we've probably made like about 500 hoops to try to find locations. It's not easy, understanding we want to keep obviously things that are important pieces in the neighborhood, but we can't keep everything and where it's appropriate. But I think we've heard what you said, we'll take it back and we'll.
And maybe there's a compromise here too. Maybe it's not a, one or the other, maybe it's something else, but we will leave it with you, the designer and expert, and we'd love to have a longer discussion.
We may come back to you with a larger discussion on this kind of stuff.
Okay.
Which
Yeah.
we would love to do, because I hear what Jeff's saying, but there are other places perhaps that, that are barren, that what you told us, like the Liberty Street, the end of the Liberty Street that goes down to the marina. We understood that you were removing all the trees from that. There'd be no more greenery, no more trees. So that goes down towards the police memorial. So, it's
So-
a question of what's going on.
Let's table the solution here, but, I don't think we need to solve this one right now.
I just want to, I think that if, this is why we have these meetings, right?
Correct.
We
That's
live
right.
there.
Correct.
They don't live there.
Correct.
So I understand you're trying to save the art, right? And in that case, it was like, well, the art's okay, but what we really wanted was a gathering space, right? And so maybe that's a way we can have.
Yeah, I think we can have a conversation about it. I think we're not trying to shut down the car. We can have a conversation about it. Again, like we've taken like a lot of feedback over the past like 3 years from what
Correct.
people want and trying to balance like what people want, what they don't want is, again, always challenging. So I think we can take this back and we'll see what we can.
Thank you.
We are getting a lot of feedback, and I do want to respond a little bit. One of the reasons why we did look at relocating some of these H5 art pieces here is because we received a comment about the upper room about how what's really great about that space is that people can sit across from each other. And when we were looking at the configuration of these kind of sculptural items, we noticed that people are using that at Brookfield for that purpose today. And so we're like, oh, maybe this will be a good solution. We can put this kind of outdoor table and bench back, but what we're
It's
hearing
not
today
a
is.
dining
Nice.
space.
Well,
Yeah.
and it may not be an either or.
Right.
Maybe it's a.
Yeah, it's fine, and it's just a continuing.
It's a continuing conversation. I think, again, we've heard it, what everybody said. I think we'll go back and talk about it and see what the options are. And we'll come back.
Thank you.
I think we still have like a bit to cover and not a ton of time,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
I think we
exactly.
probably want to. I mean, happy to take more questions, but I think if we want to
Yeah.
get through this.
Agreed.
We should keep going.
Agreed.
Okay, so this is looking at some of the proposed planting palettes for the area. I guess maybe we won't talk about this in too much detail. So then we'll pass on to the ferry terminal. This is back to Leeds. This is her.
Yes, I don't think we need to think of the existing conditions, especially what everybody here knows them very well. Again, this is the jurisdiction, so blue is city DOT, and this orange is the kind of overlap. He's looking at, this is the existing condition. The next slide is the proposed overlay with PDC jurisdiction, so you can see here we have also a little bit of that BS12, some of the planting, and then most of the paved area in front of the Irish Memorial, between that and the club area. So we have a section going through, on the right side, we can see the memorial, it's going through the plaza, that kind of slopes up very gently, and then you can see the lily pond on the opposite side, and the rest of the park and esplanade that are on platform in this area. On the next slide, we can see that with the FBS and the gate introduced. So you can really see we're trying to kind of minimize impact both to the Irish Memorial and the plaza in front of it, which we know is used for events and a lot of activities, and to the lily pond on the opposite side. You can see that in the following sequence of views. So we have the existing conditions. Oops, it's not working.
Gotcha. That one?
Sorry, we have another section that I forgot. This is looking south, so that's 300 BC. Then go next.
Claudia's looking, she's got it.
I got it up again.
I think it just needs a little text.
Yeah, right. So this is just a view looking from the memorial is on our right, we're looking toward the water. And then on the next view, we see it with the flood barrier wall. This is one of the areas where we have enough space to sort of surround the wall with planting. We're also raising the planting here, so you'll see the wood clad planter wall, and this allows us to, hide as much of the wall as we can in this area. So that balustrade remains, that's the edge of the lily pond, the opposite side. The flood wall is really nestled in the planting on the left, and you can see a little bit of it on the right. This is also another very wide opening. It's a 50-foot wide roller gate in this location. Looking a little bit at the materiality, so we do have the special paving here. That's the Irish Kilkenny stone. We have on both sides of it the asphalt mix pavers that are the typical park condition. We have the wood clad wall that sort of meanders and allows us to raise the planting behind the flood barrier wall, the integral pigment concrete, as well as the cast stone wall of the planter to the left side. That's in front of 300 BC. And then along the meandering planter wall, we also have a series of wood benches that are kind of catching those nooks and creating smaller seating areas.
Is the art that's on the south side of the Irish Hunger Memorial thing gone? Those, I know they're very expensive, the lit glass benches and all of that.
So 2 of those benches are going to be in
Closest to the ferry terminal are gonna be impacted, but the remainder, gonna say.
And the materiality that is a stone granite wall that's over there versus cement.
It's cast stone, which is a fancy word for just very, very, very nice.
So would the cast stone be done the same, or will it?
Yes, yes, we're matching.
Okay.
Into that concept.
Yeah, let's move on.
Planting in this area is a bit more coastal, coastal shrubs and dune landscape, but again, emphasis on native stations. One of the comments that we got from the Public Design Commission as a part of the walkthrough was they wanted to understand more the color choice of the flood barrier wall. And they asked specifically to look at the Irish Memorial area and see if that is the right choice there. And so we're looking at in this presentation, looking at 3 options. We included a view of the memorial itself, just to put it in context with the existing materials. That's a very dark gray, but surrounding buildings have a lot of orange and red and warm colors to them. So on the next slide, we have a series of views really kind of from this vantage point. Again, this area in particular is not in BC's jurisdiction, but it seemed like the best way to kind of portray all the different materials. So we have this one option, which is a what we're calling a context match. It's a dark gray instead of the light pink that is trying to match the palette of the Kilkenny stone and the Irish Hunger Memorial. On the next slide, we have a more gradient treatment that is a lighter pink going into gray. And then the next view is the pink that we've been showing for the full site. So on the next slide, we have these 3 side by side. we are saying on the right one, we're saying selected. Of course, that's not final, not, fully selected in any way. This is the design team's recommendation. And the rationale in this area is that we felt that trying to match the memorial is actually doing it a bit of a disservice. Uh-oh.
This time.
Oh, hello.
Laptop.
That's not good. Keep going.
And so matching grade exactly is very challenging, and we felt like the right way to respect the memorial was to do something that's different from it. The other consideration here is we're showing the planting in full bloom or very green, springtime, summertime. The reality is fall and winter do come and the colors are a lot less vibrant. And so we felt that the pink does introduce warmer tone for those just seasons. And I will note this is part of the conversation that is still ongoing with these. So this is the study that we presented to them last week.
And just a dumb question. So there will be no way to have any placemaking at the end of those streets to be able to see the water, unlike the other street ends where you've made abilities to see from roller gates and things like that. At this point, if you're walking down Vesey, you will not see the water at either side of the Armstrong Memorial.
So the lily pond is actually the thing that's blocking the view there. And we're
But
not.
You can see the Hudson.
You'll
Right?
be able to see it from that Lily
We're
Pond
still-
area.
Yeah.
Because we're not swimming that.
Okay.
Very wide.
That
there.
opening is, that opening remains the same as the Lily Pond is, so you can still see it from there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so now back to me. And so now we're going all the way up to Beach One to look at the two small areas of PDC jurisdiction that we talked about before. We can go, we'll skip the existing photos. We can go, so this is looking at Northmore Street. So everything that is within blue is within NYC DOT. As we said before, 9A West Street was all New York State DOT until it butts all the way up against the VNCC property line. So there is no PDC jurisdiction along 9A West Street. Go to the next slide. And so this is the sliver of Northmore that is within PDC jurisdiction, so it's pretty much all of Northmore. We can go to the next slide, please. This is showing the existing condition. It's a relatively narrow sidewalk. The slope, I can't quite see what it is, but I know that it starts down, I think, close to 9.8 and slopes all the way up to, I believe, is that 12 feet?
Yes.
So it's, yeah, so it's quite a big slope as you're walking up the sidewalk to get inland, which is why we've identified this area as the best place for the high ground tie back for the wall. Go to the next slide, please.
7/6 to 14 is from the
Oh,
West
thank you.
Street side to.
Yeah.
Orange Street. That's right.
So one of the things that we really are struggling with in this area is that we have quite a few Con Ed vaults that are here. Where we don't want to disturb the vault because it'll trigger a long lead time in getting the vaults relocated. We're also constrained by the face of the building. We need to pull the wall a certain number of feet off of the building. There's also a very large water main that longs around the line of the curb that is there today, and we're required by city standards to be 3 feet, a minimum of 3 feet off of that. So as you can see, there's not a lot of places that we can locate the wall in this area. You can go to the next slide, please.
I'd also note, sorry, just to talk about Morgan Street, we also have a high voltage line that runs down the middle of North Street as well.
So lots of cool stuff going on more.
Okay.
It's really amazing how much goes on underneath the New York streets. It's really incredible how the city is built. One of the great things that we are doing about Northmore is the sidewalk expansion. We are expanding the sidewalk 12 feet into Northmore. Right now, Northmore is a 3-lane road. We'll be taking it down to 2. We will maintain the parallel parking on each side of the road that is there today. A couple of the other design changes that have gone on in Northmore that I think are new to you guys is we've realigned the curb cuts with the entrances, and maintenance entrances to the buildings. We've kind of cleaned that up a little bit. And then you can also see where the orange line of the FBS is going. That is threading in between the existing vaults that are there today. I will say that this area is still under intense design, and it's because we're getting more information back from building stakeholders, from the city of DOT as well. So we are, the next time you guys see this area, it might change quite a bit, and we're still trying to figure out what that looks like, which is why this is the material for the preliminary design. One of the things that I will note is that with this 12-foot sidewalk expansion, we are getting a much more generous sidewalk, especially as you get down, as you get down to the corner of North Warren 9A. Right now in this scheme, it gets to be about 15 feet wide, and we're proposing some additional DOT benches. And then we're also far enough away from the wall that we can introduce some more trees and plant materials. And in the next slide, we have a couple different views. It go through, this is the axonometric view, so you can kind of see, this is, you can keep going.
Yeah. Great.
No, it is,
Harrison.
yeah, this is, New York Standard DOT
So-
concrete. And you can
Do
see.
you have to go to LPC then because of Harrison?
No,
Because it's
we have to
cobblestone.
consult with them as part of the EIS process, like as part of it, because of the area of potential impact, but we don't have to because we're not, we're at the end of Harrison Street, we're not up by the federal townhouses that are closer to the historic district and are the landmarks themselves.
So here in this interesting photo, you can see the center point vaults, and then, no, it's okay, you're great. And where the FBS is going is approximately where the existing curb line is today. And then you can see we've also rendered in, Independence Plaza's new building facade, which they recently finished. We actually got to model this and render it before they were finished, so we knew what it looked like before. And, you know, we are getting a lot of feedback from them regarding the location of the wall right in front of this new facade renovation. And we're really taking that into an account when we're looking at the redesign of this area. And the next slide shows the materials. It shows kind of the existing facade, which is BMCC and Independence Plaza are brick. We're looking at doing the FPS in the integral color and form lines. Concrete, this has a New York City standard DOT concrete sidewalk. Here we've identified some glass doors, and then, you know, we're showing some of the planting palette. I think that is it. Oh, we do have the planting palette for the beach one as well.
Would the planting palette be symmetrical all the way around? I mean, some contextuality, but is there a difference in?
From reach to reach?
Yeah.
Yes, that's good. There is a difference currently, so that's something that we're trying to play into. But there also, in the same way, there is a difference in the design. Obviously, it's not kind of exactly the same.
Homogeneous, yeah.
We're trying to enhance the existing character and then find opportunities to add more native species, more salt tolerant species.
Interesting.
Specifically in Reach One, these are the really the hard workers. There was a lot more exposed. A lot more what? Exposed to just traffic and city street.
And then this is looking at the 98 West Street ownership. Again, you can see everything that's in that darker purple is in New York State DOT jurisdiction. Everything in the light purple is BMCC. And then everything that is in that cyan blue is New York City DOT. And so we'll zoom into that little thumbnail that is the Harrison area. And so this is showing PDC jurisdiction in that area. The next slide shows the existing conditions. A couple things to note, the BMCC building actually spans over the Harrison Street, so it's a little bit of a darkened corridor. It also does have the historic cobblestones, and it's been kind of self-identified by BMCC as a little bit of a dead zone. So we can look at the next slide there. one of the big things that was, that we looked into with this is in coordinating with BNCC is they did ask us to maintain a minimum of 8 feet offset from their wall so that they're able to do facade maintenance and they're able to access, the base of their building. They also have asked us to use this area for storage, and so we've done that. Another thing to add that is probably a change since you guys have seen this last, this was originally a swing gate in Harrison Street. And it had a large median in the center of the road where the gate was stored. And a lot of the feedback that we received both from you guys and from DOT was that it was an eyesore and that it impeded views from the water from the historic Harrison Street. So the design team has come back and we're actually doing a flip up. So it opens the view up completely in this area. And I think we have a couple different views as we flip through these.
Really prefer you go there. Do you want to talk about the swing gates and the lighting company? Well, they're here.
Oh, you can see them, oh, yes, so this is, this is really good side.
This is the one that I remember saying.
This is,
Yeah, yeah.
this is what I was talking about earlier. If you see that they're in the median closer to Chambers Street on the left, on the right hand side of this. That is, so it, like I said, it narrowed the lane slightly, but that's how we store them. And then they connect on the west side and the east side to pillars that are in the roadway or on the sidewalk.
And then along 9A, you'll see a series of flip-up gates. So there'll be openings.
Right, to basically maintain regular access to BMCC because they have a lot of service engine loading docks. You want to be able to maintain that access that they have there, so that's why you see.
So that's a big improvement.
Right.
Thank you.
I think that following the slide, there's a couple of 9A sections. So this is the existing 9A section. This is the proposed, this section is taken at the BMCC parking lot, which is why you see that weird car behind the wall. Right now, there's a fence at this BMCC parking lot and we've designed the alignment so it follows the line of the fence. In the next slide, this is a view that's looking down the facade of the NCC. This is, I believe, to the south of Harrison.
Yes.
You can see these two existing egress doors here, and then a little bit farther down, you have some, I don't think they're windows, I believe they're ventilation access, which is where we're proposing to locate the flip-up gates. So the next slide will show the improvements that we've done here. So a couple different things. You can see that we are proposing some trees at the back of the curb with some standard DOT plant rails. We're also proposing a raised precast planter, and the reason why we're doing that is very similar to Reach Forward. We're trying to increase the height of the planting in front of the wall so that we can decrease the perceived height of the wall. We're basically trying to dress it up a little bit. And then we've also added some small little pull-off areas where we can put some DOT standard benches so that people can sit beneath, as close, to the plantings as possible. We are trying to maintain a minimum 8-foot sidewalk in most areas where we can. In some areas, we are exceeding. I guess another thing that may be new to you guys is BMCC is building a new egress stair on the side of their building. And so they have asked us to coordinate with them on the foundations and access and egress requirements for that stair, which we have considered in the new design.
It empties on West Street, correct?
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. And then I believe we have a couple different additional views of 9A. So this is the existing view. This is at the BMCC parking lot. So you can see the parking lot behind the fence. And then this is also at the bus stop here. This is actually where the sidewalk gets the most narrow along 9A, but we're still maintaining that 8 feet. Most of the existing lighting, we are proposing to protect in place. And then the bus stop will also remain in its current location.
This is an important lighting location simply because the way that their fencing works.
Yeah.
They have an incredible amount of light that comes out there, so that corner never feels dark.
Yes.
So it is a concern with that wall where you have it, that it will not allow light to come through to the sidewalk, and it will make that entire stretch feel very desolate.
Right. We are doing, we have identified the same issue, and we are working with a lighting engineer, and we're doing a lot of different photometric analysis on the existing lighting and the effect that the wall will have on it. It's a really good plan.
And that's something that BMCC also reviewed with
Yeah.
us. We were proposing this too, so they asked us to look at it as well.
That and also making sure we're not creating any corridors in the areas where we do have kind of the interstitial space between the wall and the building. We have industrial gates where people can egress if they get trapped behind them, but they can't access them on a normal basis.
And have you done wind studies on this? Because one of the things about the width of the sidewalk, and the fact that there's that cutout there at the Northmore end, where their parking lot is, actually does have a lot of difference, for cutting of the wind as it comes flying off. So a concern that I would have is that the wall being a solid just barrier going down will create a wind tunnel that's very untenable for pedestrians. Has that been studied?
No, we haven't. The location of the wall is pretty close to the existing BMCC building. I'm not sure that it would have a huge impact on winds on the dry side of the wall. If you were in the interstitial space where the public is not able to access, I think that's where you would have more issue.
I was thinking more on that Northmore corner going from,
As you're turning the corner onto 9
Yeah.
from Northmore?
yeah.
It's not that big a space, but, so, oh, sure, we should go to the next one.
Okay, yeah, we can go from, yeah, we're almost done.
Like
someone
We're going to have.
Yeah, so this is existing and proposed at the Harrison Street corner. This is kind of one of the access points, that is being proposed for BMCC behind the wall. This would not be open on a normal day-to-day basis. And you can also see the raised planter and the wall scheme. In the next slide, is showing the tree impacts, for the wall. And then the next slide is the same material slides. Again, we're doing the integral color and form liner, cast in place flood wall. There's the BMCC existing brick. Most of the paving will be the New York City standard DOT concrete. We are proposing to put back the cobble band that's behind the back of the curb. This is kind of the amenity area where parking meters, street signs go. And then we're also proposing, these kind of raised precast concrete planters and then putting the DOT benches back into rates. And then the next couple slides that's the planting palette, and that's a wrap for BBC. So what we did with them in 10 minutes, we just did with you and Karen. Great.
Yeah, we know really how to stretch it out here.
They don't live down here. They don't have like these curious questions because they don't know it.
Well, I do appreciate you taking all of our questions, and obviously there'll be more discussion, but okay, it is 5 minutes after 9, and so I think that Richard will let you ask the question, and then I think we should call it a wrap.
Motion to, on that, who is going to be maintaining the dry side of the ground? Trash gets thrown over, people might climb over, how will that be addressed?
So we've been working with BMCC on that because that is a concern that they raised also. We've looked at putting like a grate essentially like on top of the wall. We don't love that idea because it will also collect debris. We're responsible for the maintenance of the wall. I think it's probably a conversation with the school about like, again, we have to make sure it's clear around the wall when we do inspections anyway. And I think we have to probably do just behind any of these walls that are not on our property, do regular inspections to make sure that there's not accumulation that we can actually access it. So that'll be part of an agreement we have with BMCC.
And our parks department has to be taking care of it.
Yeah.
For the water main.
Responsibility is given that the
But yeah, but it will be. That was a good question. That was a good closing.
Okay.
That was a great closing motion.
Okay, so motion to
adjourn.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Christine.